Folks, what is worse than a liberal?
I don't know. What is worse than a liberal?
A tornado. Folks, this upcoming tornado season, make sure to get yourself all shored up with plenty of manly goods like storm drainers, bird bath protectors, chewing tobacco, duct tape, and plenty of canned goods at your Greater Pennsatucky Space Hardware. Because what is worse than a liberal?
I don't know. What is worse than a liberal?
I told you, you dopey son of a gun. A tornado. Believe it.
Brought to you by Greater Pennsatucky Space Hardware. Terms and conditions apply. Liberal may be worse than tornado. See salesperson for details.
And we are back. It's been a long few weeks without you. Greetings to our loyal WFYL listeners around the world. Welcome back to your Philadelphia live stream, only on the Freedom Station. I want to thank each and every one of you for tuning in once again, because you still have the right to hear and the right to be heard. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mike G. As always, with me are Philly Chris, Russ the producer, and Liberty Lee. And you're listening to Mike G in the Morning with The Law Matters. And you can listen to our program every Friday at 7 a.m. Eastern, only on the Freedom Station, WFYL. So let's be heard. We got a very special episode in store for you, ladies and gentlemen. But before we do that, I want to remind our listeners and our audience members that you can participate in the free and open exchange of thoughts and ideas throughout the entire week utilizing MikeGinthemorning.com. Phil, Chris, where can they go?
MikeGinthemorning.com.
Russ, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. MikeGinthemorning.com.
Thank you, Russ. Thank you. We appreciate it. It's not like we
even
do
have to
this
ask
every single week.
Right.
You got a short memory, Russ.
We don't.
Liberty, hit us with it.
Liberty's muted.
No, she's taking lessons from
I'm
Russ.
sorry,
right?
I apologize.
Yeah.
MikeGinthemorning.com.
There we go.
MikeGinthemorning.com. You know, we grew to understand how important it is to have our own website through MikeGinthemorning.com. Within the last month, with all the censorship that has taken place, completely unfairly, not violating any rules of any kind, and still having our content removed from certain platforms, being suppressed in all kinds of different scary ways, because they're trying to prevent our message from getting out to you, our listeners. So MikeGinthemorning.com is a great way for us to connect. You can find out what we've been up to. You can check out all of our sources from all of our different platforms. Check out our previous episodes. We're proud to announce that we have found a platform that will not censor us, at least yet. So check us out at MikeGinthemorning.com. And with that, you know what time it is. Buckle up and enjoy the ride. We've got a very special guest joining us right out of the gate. Friend of the show, several times appearing on the program. We've got Dr. Val Finnell, Gun Owners of America. Dr. Val, thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome. And as you have said before, I'm a repeat offender on this show.
You're certainly you are the repeat offender. I think you win that award, Dr. Val.
Right.
You might want to seek counsel, as a matter of fact.
I think I have the perfect attorney in mind.
There we go. Proud to do it. Now, Dr. Val, you have been a very busy man these days, haven't you?
It's been very busy. The last week or two has just been hellacious. Lots going on.
I understand you had a very, very special announcement and a press conference took place. Why don't you tell our audience members, in case they missed it, a little bit about it?
Real exciting day in Harrisburg yesterday at 10 o'clock in the morning. Senator Doug Mastriano and introduced the bill on May 3rd, and we had a press conference about it yesterday. It's Senate Bill 624, which is the Right to Bear Arms Protection Act. And this bill fits into a category of bills and laws across America known as, they go by different names, but largely they fall under the umbrella of Second Amendment Protection Acts. And as of today, I got the list. There are 11 states that have enacted a Second Amendment Protection Act. And generally what it is, these are bills or laws that say that a state will not cooperate in the enforcement of federal gun control laws, usually after a certain date, in this case, December 31st, 2020. And, the states now, we have, prior to the Biden administration, get this, Alaska, Idaho, Kansas, and Wyoming. But the majority of them came in after the Biden administration. That's shocking. It's Arkansas, Arizona, Montana, North Dakota, Oklahoma, Nebraska by executive order, and lastly, our neighbors in West Virginia. And there are 17 more states outside of Pennsylvania considering this legislation or considering strengthening their existing laws. So it's in a general sense, I can go into the details about the bill, but it's non-cooperation, that any state actor in Pennsylvania would not cooperate with the enforcement of things like gun bans, registration schemes, magazine restrictions, those kinds of laws that the Biden administration is trying to push down our throats, either by executive order or through congressional action, because Congress, as you know, right now is largely in the hands of the Democrats. It is actually in the hands of the Democrats.
So, Dr. Val, what this is telling us, that we're seeing this all over the country in several states enacting these types of laws, not last year, but within the last few months, shows us that people are very concerned about their gun rights, and they're very concerned about the restrictions that are presumably going to take place at the federal level. Is that fair to say?
That is exactly right. And that's been the impetus for this in the last several months. Exactly.
And it's interesting to see that there are politicians out there, there are representatives in these states who are getting on board with this, who are understanding what the people want and hearing the people's concerns, because I think a lot of times gun owners feel like they're forgotten and that their voices aren't heard, their concerns aren't heard by our representatives. Is that true?
That is exactly right. And the press conference yesterday turned that on its head. Senator Mastriano, as we all know, has been fighting to keep Pennsylvania open for the last year or so through the COVID pandemic and the shutdowns, and he's taking a stand again for law-abiding gun owners now, so we would not be subject to these unconstitutional restrictions. And at the press conference yesterday, Senator Mastriano was there. He spoke. The bill was co-authored by Senator Dush in the 25th district. He spoke. Senator Bartolotta spoke. We had Senator Scavello there, Senator Hutchison, the chair of the State Government Committee, Senator Argel, who I visited on Monday, and he's actually a co-sponsor of the bill now. So we have a very good chance of getting it out of state government, but we got to move it, and that's going to be up to the Republican leadership in Pennsylvania. And we've had discussions about that before on this program, about how things kind of get held up with the leadership. So we're going to have to push pretty hard to get it onto the floor and vote. And yeah, sure, Governor Wolf will veto it. He's already promised to veto it in the press. So what? Let's stick it on his desk and force him to veto it. We get a recorded vote, and we'll figure out who's really with us and who's really against us. That's the thing about getting a recorded vote. And we set ourselves up for success down the road. And same with our other bills that we have, like constitutional carry and strengthening the firearms preemption law. It's the same thing. Always push for an aggressive pro-gun agenda. Don't just be on defense. If you're on defense, you're going to lose eventually. Best defense is a good offense.
And what this is truly representative of is these states taking back some of the control, right? Understanding that if we've got a federal government that's so powerful and it pushes the people around, that's a dangerous path to go down. And to have state representatives go out there and try to resume some of the power with the people, that's incredibly important. So where do you see this going from here? I know that it is going to be an uphill battle. Do you have any next steps, anything in mind as to what we're going to see in the weeks coming forward? Right.
So the next step is get it out of committee or reported from committee. We already have the chairman on board, Senator Argel, is to really push the committee and get it up for committee vote. But that will also involve us engaging with Senator Jake Corman, who's the president pro temp of the Senate, who really controls the floor agenda. And sometimes the leadership will call the committee chairs and say, don't report that. I don't want that on the floor yet. We've got so many other things that we want to deal with first. And we once again get pushed to the back burner. But yet when election season rolls around, we're all pro gun, and then legislative season, back burner. And last year they ran 2 bills for us like 2 weeks before the whole session was over. I mean, that was it. But let me make another point about this, and so the listeners really understand. We've been here before in Pennsylvania, and I made this clear during the press conference. Is way back in the 1830s, there was an African American woman named Margaret Morgan, and she escaped slavery in Maryland and crossed the line of freedom. She crossed the Mason-Dixon line into York County, Pennsylvania, where I'm sitting right now, and for her freedom. And our law in Pennsylvania at the time said if a slave bounty hunter came and arrested a fugitive slave under the Fugitive Slave Act, which was a federal law, that we would prosecute that person for kidnapping. Well, Edward Prigg got arrested for kidnapping in Pennsylvania. And that case went all the way to the Supreme Court, in the Taney Court. Now, I'm not a lawyer, but I play one on WFYL. But anyway, so it went all the way to the Supreme Court, and our law against kidnapping was declared unconstitutional because the Federal Fugitive Slave Act took precedence. It was federal law. Well, Pennsylvania didn't sit idly by. We passed a personal liberty law in 1847, and that was a non-cooperation law. And within that decision in Prigg versus Pennsylvania, I think it was Justice Story who wrote the opinion. And in that, he said that the states could not be commandeered to enforce federal law. And so we said, we are not cooperating, this 1847 personal liberty law, we are not cooperating at all with any aspect of the Federal Fugitive Slave Act. And there were penalties for any state actor or official who would cooperate with that law. You could lose your job, and it was from jailer all the way on up. So we have a strong statutory precedent for this. And as you know, back around the time the Brady Law passed, there was Prince versus Arizona, Prince versus the United States. And in that Supreme Court case, they said the ruling was the states could not be commandeered again using this non-commandeering principle. And it goes all the way back to James Madison in Federalist Number 46, where he said this was a bulwark that the states did not have to cooperate with unconstitutional laws or even constitutional laws that were unpopular. And so this is not radical at all. This is our state government interposing itself between potentially tyranny coming from the Biden administration and the citizens of our state by refusing to cooperate. And again, strong history of this in our state, particularly around the Civil War time.
I love that you take the time to go through the history of that, because I think no matter how many times people hear that story, they're like, yes, get him.
Right.
Love that story. Love that story. And ultimately, it really puts everything into perspective. You talked about the Federalist Papers. If you look at the Federalist Papers, the Anti-Federalist Papers, and you look at where we are today, it really shows that some of these gripes that people had on the Anti-Federalist side still exist today. They're still prevalent. And everything that they warned of, I shouldn't say everything, but a good amount of things that they warned of, and the other side said, that's ridiculous, that'll never happen. Of course, they've come to fruition. So these were legitimate concerns about having this overpowerful federal government. And that's what we're seeing when it comes to our federal gun control pushes and the push to disarm the people. So we appreciate you doing that and getting out there. We've got a lot more to talk about, but before we do that, I want to thank our sponsors of this program, and I want to remind our listeners that today's episode of the Mike G in the Morning program is brought to you by Elite Tactical Armory. That's elitetacticalarmory.com and pacommercialarmory.com. Do you know what a commercial armory is? Well, you should. The Pennsylvania government has recognized commercial armories as an acceptable mechanism for off-site firearm storage. There are a bunch of reasons why you might need to store your firearms somewhere outside of the home. If you're headed out of town for a while, if your kid is on probation, if you got false accusations against you again, or if you just ran out of room for all your precious babies, get yourself a unit at Elite Tactical Armory. So visit our friends over at Elite Tactical Armory at elitetacticalarmory.com and pacommercialarmory.com. That's elitetacticalarmory.com and pacommercialarmory.com, because it's important to support those who support freedom. And be sure and tell them Mike G sent you. So, Dr. Val, that's just a small portion of what you've got going on these last few weeks. Believe it or not, sounds like a whole lot, but you've got a lot more going on. Why don't you sort of run us down the list, unless I've cut you off and you had any other points that you wanted to make.
The only other point I wanted to make is those kind of threats happened right away. With the Alien and Sedition Act, and the Virginia and Kentucky resolutions. They wouldn't enforce federal law, and so this was not something. The encroachments on liberty happened almost immediately.
What do you want our listeners to do, our audience members who are watching this and saying, yes, I'm on board with these measures? What do you want them to do?
Well, what you got to do is pick up the phone or call your state senator and just have them co-sponsor the bill if they haven't co-sponsored it already, and vote for it and support it for passing it. That's the most important thing that people listening can do.
How about if they've already supported the bill publicly, they've gone out there, they've co-sponsored it? Can you call them and give them a thumbs up sort of thing? Let them know, hey, you're on the right track?
Absolutely. Sure, absolutely. If they're doing the right thing, tell them thanks. We do that all the time. Anyway.
Good idea.
Really? Okay, so that's a good thing, because, it seems like sometimes that could be, and I'm not trying to talk great about politicians or anything like that, believe me. But sometimes it could be a thankless job, right?
Right.
Hey, you did the right thing. Well, good. That's what you're supposed to do. That's why I put you in office.
There you
all
go.
These kinds of things.
That's right.
So what else we got on the agenda, Dr. Val? I know we got a Philadelphia lawsuit we're dealing with as well.
Yeah, we do. So a couple days ago, we sued the city of the first class, the city of Philadelphia, for their homemade firearms ban. We don't like to use the term ghost gun because it's fictitious and it doesn't exist. There's no such thing as
so
a ghost
scary.
Right. This is once again, the city of Philadelphia, along with Pittsburgh, violating Title 18, Section 6120, the firearms preemption law. They cannot regulate the lawful ownership, transportation of firearms, and yet, again and again and again, over and over and over again, they keep doing it. And so, and I think it was in January of this year, they passed an ordinance or a law. I don't know what they call them in Philadelphia. I guess an ordinance. Which would, ban the homemade firearms. And evidently on the books, Andrew Austin, our attorney, who's leading the charge there in Philadelphia, says there's been a 3D printed gun ban for some time. So this is, we've got 4 plaintiffs. It's GOA versus the city of Philadelphia. And so we're moving forward to that. And let's make this perfectly clear. This is the first shot in the war against homemade firearms nationwide, because our illustrious Attorney General, Josh Shapiro, has traipsed to Washington, D.C. this week to testify, for the banning of ghost guns, or homemade firearms is what they really are. And so our state is ground zero for this. And the justification for this is very, very slim. It's becoming the weapon of choice for criminals in Philadelphia. Oh. They have press conferences on the street. If you look at the data from 2020, which is the year we have the last year with complete data, there were 99 out of 5,000 crime guns, not used in homicides, just crime guns, right? Which means they could just be found at a crime, right, Mike?
Sure.
Right. So 2% of all crime guns in 2020 were unserialized firearms. Okay. And remember, these things aren't firearms when they're purchased. They're blocks of metal and plastic. And then you have to mill them and you have to finish them yourself. And this has been a right we've had in this republic since the beginning. And to say, like the Attorney General in his opinion from December of 2019, that these are somehow firearms is crazy.
Plastic can be very scary sometimes.
Right. Plastic is, and it's like, well, you have the components and you can put it together. And I'm like, well, everybody in their house pretty much has the components to make Molotov cocktail. And as you know, Mike, the Molotov cocktail is a destructive device under the National Firearms Act. And so you can make as many Molotov cocktails as you want in your house as long as you pay $200 for each one that you make. So, I mean, so what are you going to do? Ban gasoline, ban rags, ban bottles? I mean, it's like it's the same. Lysol. It's the same idea. And so
if you go that far to try to predict future behavior, right? And how far you can bring something. At what point can you allege constructive possession? Evan Knappen, attorney over in New Jersey, who's been on this program, says, given the proper amount of time and resources, you can turn a toaster into a helicopter, right? So at some point, you could always say, oh, well, if you took enough time, you had the right tools and you had the right skills, you could turn this into a firearm. How far do we go? That's what it comes down to, right?
Right. It's exactly what it comes down to. And, and it also ignores the problem in Philadelphia with the prosecution of crime with the district attorney, with Larry Krasner. And I brought this up on my interview with Ceasefire on PCN the other night. As under Krasner, there's been a walloping increase in homicides and violent crime within the city of brotherly love. And I believe the statistic is 3 times there's been a triple amount of illegal guns recovered, yet the convictions have dropped from 63 to 49%. So we have this district attorney who's soft on crime. 150 former prosecutors have called for his ouster. And this is how. So if you don't punish crime, if there's no consequence to what you're doing, well, you're going to get more of it. I mean, it's just common sense.
Sure. And I think that's the gripe of a lot of law-abiding gun owners, people who haven't harmed anybody, saying that your approach is that you're not going to prosecute and you're not going to move forward and push on these people who have committed crimes.
Right.
Yet you're going to punish us for something that we didn't do. You can't have this type of an item, or you can't possess this type of firearm. You can't do this with your guns, because we're concerned that somebody out there might do something bad with it down the line. So the people who didn't do anything get punished, and the people who did something don't get punished.
Right.
It makes no sense.
It makes no sense. And if you look nationally, the ATF from 2016 to 2020, and this is murder or attempted murder as opposed to crime guns, but again, 2%. It's the same, almost the same statistic. 2% of homemade firearms or unserialized firearms is what they would call them, I guess, were involved in murder or attempted murder nationwide in that 4-year period.
Well, so they've got a long history, these gun control advocates, of going after or at least pushing red herrings to the front of the line. Isn't that true? I mean, when we're talking about things like the quote-unquote assault weapons, right? And I'm not going to make air quotes when I talk about them, because nobody can seem to tell me what exactly that is. You've got all these different definitions all over the place.
Right.
And when you have these people come out and push this sort of thing, they fail to recognize the fact that if you look at the statistics and you look at the homicides that take place by way of rifles of any kind, not just the AR-15 variety, they're comparable to those by way of hands and feet, or a quarter of those by way of sharp cutting instruments like knives and things of that nature. You don't have Congress out there proposing some kind of a assault edged weapon ban, right? A assault scissors ban or anything like that, or an assault hands and feet ban, right? Could you imagine
Don't
an
worry, it's
assault
coming.
hands and
It's
feet
coming,
ban?
Mike. Don't
Right.
We
worry.
have to
Well,
cut off
yeah,
everybody's hands and feet.
Right.
That's exactly right. And it's actually twice as many with hands, fists, and feet. I think it's like 300 and some, rifle murdered by rifle. And that's rifles. Keep in mind, this is rifles of all types.
Right.
It doesn't include the just semi-automatic rifles, the ones that ceasefire and the anti-gunners hate. It's rifles of all types. And it's 300 and some versus 600 plus who were, killed with hands, fists, or feet. And then like 1,400 with knives. And then the other argument
Not just
used,
the super scary looking ones, right?
Right. Right. Yeah.
right, so paint a unicorn on it and make yourself feel better. But someone did that. I think John Crump at GOA did that. He has a gun, has an AR like that. But right, and then the whole mass shooting thing is like the epidemic. This drives me crazy because I'm a retired physician. I'm a retired Air Force public health physician. I actually managed the pandemic, the H1N1 pandemic at Los Angeles Air Force Base. I understand epidemiology. I understand biostatistics. This use of the term that there's an epidemic of gun violence is preposterous.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at the statistics between like 1982 and 2018, because you got to look at it over long periods of time, because some years you have more mass shootings and other years you have lower. So the average number over that time per year of mass shootings is 23. It sounds like a lot. So one of the things you learn in public health is it's like you always say in your risk communication is you tell people compared to what does that really mean? Put it in terms of some that people can understand. And okay, so here's how I would put it. There are approximately 43 people per year who are killed by lightning strikes. So you are twice as likely to be killed by a lightning strike than you are to be involved in a mass shooting. That is not an epidemic,
Right.
but that is a rare event.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Well, they even have the saying about getting struck by lightning, right? That's that.
right. It's rare.
They use it as an expression because it's so rare.
Right. Right.
So rare. And that's just not me talking, it's you're just a gun advocate. Well, no, I mean, so if you look in the criminological literature, James Allen Fox, who's I think he's one of the top researchers, criminologists who studies mass shootings, and he flat out says there is no evidence that there's an epidemic, and because certain years you have higher numbers of mass shootings and then other years it's lower. There's no evidence of it whatsoever. And even the definition of mass shooting is not agreed upon. There's looser definitions that inflate the numbers. I like to use the FBI definition myself. I mean, you got to use something. So that's a standard definition. But that's a problem in itself. And the RAND Corporation did a study and basically said, we don't even know what we're talking about because we can't even agree on what a definition of a mass shooting is.
Right.
So these people should
very
probably
difficult
get
to have a meaningful conversation when you don't even have the same basic definitions. It's like you're speaking two different languages.
Exactly. Right.
Chris, did I cut you off?
Oh yeah, that's all right.
Good. It doesn't matter what you got to say. No.
It is your show. I was going to say maybe these people should get personal lightning rods then.
Right.
And not to diminish
keep 'em a
anybody
little
who's ever
safer.
had a
Yeah.
family member who's been a victim of some kind of a mass shooting. That that's horrible. Obviously,
Yeah,
right,
obviously,
we're human
yeah.
beings. We feel bad for those people. We feel bad for their families and everything. But let's not lie and make it something that it isn't. That's not fair to do either. In order to push some kind
It's
of
the
a narrative,
narrative,
because
though,
that's not
yeah.
honoring those people that were hurt or killed in these incidents. That's just taking advantage of them and using them to promote your own agenda and to fulfill your own motivations. And that's not right to do. Now, Dr. Val, in a similar vein, I want to talk about this a little bit, and we're getting off on a tangent, but that's okay.
Okay.
We had Guy Smith, author of a book called Guns and Control, on this program. He's another repeat offender, as you like to say. And he was talking a little bit about statistics when it comes to firearms suicides as it compares to other nations. And he was able to really flesh that out for us and explain all that to us. Now, all that being said, when you look at the amounts of deaths that are attributed each year to quote unquote gun violence, a vast majority of those are suicides with the figures that these gun control advocates push at everybody. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah.
Okay. So with all that being said, we looked at a statistic the other day. I stumbled upon it from somebody who was a personal injury attorney saying that there are roughly 17,000 people who die every year by way of some kind of a slip and fall injury.
Mhm.
I passed that along to Philly Chris. Chris, did you get a chance to take a look at that?
Yeah, I started looking into that. Yeah, the
And once
17,000.
you hear this, you can really just
Mhm.
Google that, and it'll come up on a ton of personal injury pages. I believe the statistic comes from the CDC, if I'm not mistaken. So when you look at a number like 17,000 as compared to the types of homicides that people think about when they hear the term gun violence, right? Because you say gun violence, most people don't think of suicides, so it's not fair to give that big number that they always use. When you look at the number of homicides that take place with a gun involved, right? And I want to make it clear, violence of any kind, homicides of any kind should be condemned, not just those that take place with firearms. That's ridiculous.
Absolutely.
But when you look at these particular numbers, because they're the ones always throwing them out there, they're dwarfed by the amount of slip and fall deaths. So is that something we need to pay closer attention to? If we're really concerned with if it just saves one life, right? Because that's what they always push out there. Do we have our attention on the wrong thing here, Dr. Val?
Yeah, I mean, and the way they would answer that is, one's sort of an intentional injury versus an accidental injury. But I agree with you 100%. If your goal is just to save as many lives as possible, then to use a medical term, you would triage, the things that you triage your interventions, and you would try to create your interventions that would save the most lives wherever that would work. I mean, that just would make sense, but we know what the real agenda is. The real agenda is that they don't like firearms, right? So they're going to try to ban them. And what's really funny to me, mass shootings are not funny, but what's really strange to me, when it's not strange if you understand their agenda, is that every time there's a mass shooting, they call for the same really two things, really, universal background checks and red flag laws.
Mhm.
So if you look at the Colorado shooter, he passed a background check. They have red flag laws in Colorado. The Indianapolis FedEx shooting, they have a red flag law. We call them red flag gun confiscation orders at GOA, because that's what they are. And they also have that shooter also passed the background check. Same, El Paso and Dayton shootings from 2019 passed background checks. Yet the solution is to pass universal background checks.
Mhm.
I mean,
Right.
I mean, it's just like you're right. It's a knee-jerk reaction. It's going to save lives, but the tragedies that you're using as a reason for it disprove the solution.
It's a non exactly. It's a non sequitur.
Non sequitur. Very good.
Mhm.
Right.
So when you look at, I want to back it up a little bit to your devil's advocate argument that, with gun violence deaths, those are intentional versus the slip and falls that are unintentional.
Yeah.
Would they be saying that the lives of people who died by way of accident are less valuable than the lives of people who died at the hands of some criminal who had to take some extra measure beyond mere possession of that firearm?
Right.
Or is it because you have these people who would be impacted by whatever measures they would place on to try to prevent these slip and falls that might impact their daily lives? They don't own guns, right? They're not gun owners, so they don't mind that you take away all the gun owners' guns. But if you start imposing measures that'll impact me in my daily life because of these slip and falls, maybe I'm not cool with that. Or when it comes to deaths that take place in a vehicle, let's say, right?
Right.
Everybody should give up their guns if it saves just one life. But I'm not willing to give up my keys and have no cars on the road, even if that would save one life.
Mhm.
It really depends upon how it impacts them in their life, doesn't it?
Your voir dire is very powerful, counselor. Yeah. Yes. Exactly. If it just saves one life, that's always been, that's the argument. But and here's the thing: when you look at things that people know versus people that things that they don't know, if people feel like they're in control of something, they're willing to accept the risk. So when they get into a car and they drive, I mean, if you ask someone, they know, they'll probably be able to tell you some loose statistics that, you know, it's pretty dangerous to drive a car. You might get involved in an accident, but they feel in control, and everybody drives a car, so everybody feels comfortable with it, even though they're taking a much greater risk of having an accident or than flying, for example. Flying is much safer than driving. Right, but they're not in control. They're not in control when you're flying. So that's why we have all those disaster movies with planes crashing, because you're not in control, right? And it's terrible. It's just, but when you're behind a car, even though it's riskier for yourself, you're in control. So there's that factor you have to think about too.
And do you think that by imposing these gun control measures, pushing these, confiscations and disarming other people, that's their way of getting the control? They're taking that control and disarming these law-abiding citizens. They want some level of control, and that's how they do it, rather than taking personal responsibility and arming themselves and preparing their families.
Or worse, portraying owning a firearm as a risk factor, as like something in medicine, like you're going to be exposed to something, that there's this exposure of a firearm, and that the exposure of this firearm increases your risk of something nefarious happening. And that makes people think, I'm not in control. I'm not in control. If I have that, it's a riskier thing to me have around, and I don't know what's going to happen. Now, I'm not saying be an irresponsible gun owner. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying this is how they portray gun ownership, is something that's kind of nasty and risky that you may not have complete control over. So that speaks to that. Yes, absolutely.
Sure. For those of us just tuning in, you're listening to Mike G in the Morning with The Law Matters, only on the Freedom Station, WFYL. I want to remind our listeners that joining us for today's program is Dr. Val Fennell from Gun Owners of America. Getting into it further, Dr. Fennell, why don't you tell us a little bit about Crawford versus Pennsylvania?
Well, this has to be the dumbest lawsuit that I have ever seen in my entire life. We actually, this is a case that brought by Philadelphia against the state legislature for failure to pass gun control, and they're trying to get the court to order the state to pass gun control. So much for understanding the separation of powers. We have three branches of government, and all of the legislative authority, Joe Biden, pay attention, all of the legislative authority is in the General Assembly in Pennsylvania, not in the executive branch, not in the judiciary, right? So they're trying to force the state to pass gun control. So we filed an amicus brief. We're the only gun organization that filed a brief, basically telling them, this is about the stupidest thing we ever heard, nicely in legalese way.
You ever see My Cousin Vinny, where he's sleeping during the opposing counsel's statement, and he wakes up and it's like, it's your turn. He gets up there and he says, everything that guy just said is BS. He didn't say BS. You remember that scene?
Yes, I do.
Was that what the amicus brief looked like? It was a one sentence.
Pretty much. And we point out, and part of their argument is they blame guns for everything in Philadelphia. They don't even mention that maybe gang violence has something to do with the amount of murders in Philadelphia, or maybe drug violence has something remotely to do with violence. Perhaps. No, completely honest. All guns.
All guns and nothing else. And if they would just get rid of the guns, then that would be it, right? All violence would cease immediately, and everybody would be perfectly safe, right?
Except for the criminals who will have the guns.
Right. Speaking of that, yesterday I had an opportunity, Dr. Fennell, to sit in on one of Mayor Kenny's live Facebook briefings about the gun violence in Philly. I believe you may have seen those. I just want to get your thoughts on those.
I haven't actually watched a lot of those briefings. I did.
Oh, you haven't? Okay.
I watched the ones that he did with Shapiro on ghost guns.
Okay. All right.
homemade firearms, those are the
Yeah.
things I watched, and then and at that time, the Attorney General was after gun shows. I mean, he
Yeah.
basically pressured Eagle Arms into having JSD Supply stop selling the the P80 firearm kits, and
Okay.
they demonized all homemade firearms with this,
Mhm.
and they put a lot of pressure, undue pressure and influence, and undue pressure on the gun show promoter, and I think I know that show promoter. He's a great guy.
Yeah.
He does a lot of good stuff for GOA.
Yeah.
Joel does a lot of
Joel, yeah, Joel's a good dude.
He-
Yeah, they're
he's a
good
great
people.
guy. And so
Well,
here
they-
you have the Attorney General, breathing down your neck. And so, my suggestion was, give GOA a call if this happens again. We'll stand in the gap. That's part of our job, is to protect people, from these types of encroachments. But he did a lot of grandstanding on this, and is now used it as an excuse for Senator Hughes has a bill to ban quote unquote ghost guns in the Pennsylvania legislature. I don't think it's going to go anywhere, but never say never.
One of the things I was surprised to hear Mayor Kenny say, and he referenced the gun shows, is that apparently you can go to these gun shows and buy bags of guns. I've been to quite a few gun shows, and I've never seen like bags of guns.
Yeah, I think he is confusing it with the bag of bees.
The bag of bees, yeah, must be the same thing,
right?
Yeah.
And the gun
trying to outlaw the bag of bees now.
Oh, bees basically are guns. Everyone knows that.
Yeah, that's right.
Is there such a thing as a gun show loophole, Mike?
There's a bag of bees loophole. Only at the gun shows when these take place. I've had to explain that in opening statements, by the way, about the process when you purchase a firearm from a dealer, whether it's at a gun show or at a brick and mortar store. You fill out the forms, you submit to a background check, and some people on the jury kind of perk up a little bit. I've heard on the news for all these years that's not true. At a gun show, you could just do it. All the laws go out the window at a gun show, right?
Right.
Of course. Yeah.
The laws just cease to exist. Now, I think I found, from what I understand, Attorney Gilbert Ambler, who's the Law Shield program attorney down in Virginia, as well as my colleague here in Pennsylvania, been working with him for many years. I believe I introduced him to you, Dr. Val, as a matter of fact.
Yep.
And I understand he wrote participated in that amicus brief.
That's
and
right.
I've got the text here. And what they said was, what you've just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point during your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points. And may God have mercy on your soul. That's a direct quote, ladies and gentlemen.
That's in the conclusion of the argument. Yes.
Yeah.
I remember it well.
Winner.
From Billy Madison, for anybody who didn't recognize.
That is great.
Those of us just tuning in, you're listening to Mike G in the Morning with The Law Matters, only on the Freedom Station, WFYL. Now, I can't let you leave without talking about the scuffle that you got into on television earlier this week. I understand you got into a little bit of a scrape on television. Why don't you tell us about that?
Oh yeah, it wasn't a big deal. I mean, I had I have not been on PCN before, and I got invited the other night to debate with Adam Garber of Ceasefire PA, who's the newer executive director of Ceasefire, and replaced Shira Goodman. And we had a discussion about gun laws, and it was a call-in program, and all but one caller for the whole hour was a solid pro-gun caller, showing their support, thanking, I'm very grateful, thanking me for what I did. I wasn't expecting that at all. And we had like one caller said, well, I've been to a gun show, and he was a FUD, and I'm a hunter, and I went to a gun show, and somebody had a gun slung over his shoulder, and it said it was for sale, and he could have sold it to a criminal. I mean, oh my gosh. And I was like, my response to that was, God bless America. You're not selling it to a criminal, but you got, you have a right to buy and sell your firearms. And this universal background check thing, which is what the question was about universal background check. Why is a UBC or universal background check bad? And we call them a GOA, universal background check registration, because, no one will know when a firearm is not appropriately transferred under a universal background check. If a police officer seizes a gun, he's not going to know unless he's able to check a 4473 from the dealer, for the paperwork from the dealer or whatever, but it will not work. So and I brought this up during the debate, is the Obama administration Justice Department issued a memo saying the only way a universal background check works is if there are registration of firearms. And that way they can tell immediately through the serial number who owned the gun prior. And so if we allow, this is the camel's nose under the tent, if we allow UBCs, then the next step is, well, they didn't work. Of course they don't work, because you have to register firearms. That's the next step, register firearms. And what's the next step after that? Is seizing firearms. And of course, Adam Garber's like, oh, you always raise the specter of there's going to be gun seizures. It's never happened. I'm like, oh, really? I said, I seem to remember that
about New York. Yeah.
And so he walked right into that trap. And I said, in the 1960s, they registered long guns. And guess what? In 1991, they used the registration list to seize them. And there was a newspaper article in 1992 in New York says the police are even planning spot checks.
Wow.
There you go. Right
there
here.
You have it. Yeah.
USA.
Yeah. We get short memories, though.
Yes.
Never mind your facts, Dr. Fennell. You're always introducing facts to the argument.
Stop doing that.
Stop
being all logical.
I don't like your pesky facts.
To Fud Guy's argument. I want to back up to Fud Guy's argument. So we got to hold on a second with what he said. He said, well, he could sell it to a criminal. Now, wouldn't that be illegal if he was selling it to a criminal already?
Yeah, because the criminal is prohibited.
You're making too much sense over there, Mike.
I guess it depends on how you define criminal, right?
Right.
It depends on how you define criminal. But if he's been convicted of any misdemeanor of domestic violence, right?
That's
any of the enumerated offenses under Pennsylvania law, or any misdemeanor that carries a max possible sentence of over 2 years, or any felony that carries a max possible sentence of over 1 year. By the way, it doesn't matter what you actually served. It only matters what the max the judge could have possibly given you.
Correct. Right.
So if he's convicted of any of those, right, kind of a criminal, then he's already prohibited. So he's not going to follow the law that's in place now, but he will follow the new law, right?
Right.
Of course. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they're so easy to interpret, all the laws. So, we need more.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I understand all the laws. All
especially Russ. You're pretty down with all the laws, aren't you?
I know all of them. I have them all memorized.
Yeah. Right.
I shoved a law book between my ears.
Yeah, there you go.
my brain is melded with these law books.
Mm-hmm.
So didn't somebody try to tell you that the whole registration as far as PSP goes, there's never been any issue with that? Meanwhile, there was a case.
Yeah,
actually, I wrote an article about this years ago.
There was a caller that called in, and thanks for reminding me on that, because I think we talked about it. He called in and said, I don't remember, I don't have the tape yet, but I'm going to get a recording. But he said during the call, I was on the phone with the state police, and it seemed like they knew everything about me and my gun and everything. Do they have a gun registry? I said, officially no, but yeah, I think they really do. and of course, Adam Garber was.
They have not a registry.
It's an imaginary registry, and I'm like, I said, no, it's not an imaginary. And I said, Google it. There was a court case, Allegheny County Sportsman League case. And Mike, you explained it a lot better to me, in the article that you said. Could you shed some light on that?
Yeah. So basically, they have not a registry, right?
Right.
They don't have a registry. They have not a registry. And what happened was, you've got these records of sale, right? These transfer records that they're holding on to. So every time you transfer what they call a firearm under Pennsylvania law, under the Uniform Firearms Act. You got to fill out this special form made by the state police. And for practical purposes, we're not going to get into NFA items, but we're talking about the transfers of handguns, with the exemptions being if you got parent, child, grandparent, grandchild, or spouses who all reside in Pennsylvania and they're all eligible, right?
Right.
Can you transfer a Molotov cocktail?
That's the nutshell version. What's that?
Can you transfer a Molotov cocktail? Is that allowed?
Form 4, you can.
Oh, okay. There you
go. It's not a firearm under. You wouldn't need one of these forms. Not a firearm under Pennsylvania.
Right.
But we're talking about a different set of paperwork, different set of rules. So when we're talking about the transfer forms, they've got this information there, and people saying, well, if they've got all of this information, you've got all this documentation, and all of these handguns, the vast majority of them being transferred are having this documentation associated with it, because you get just a small percentage that are taking place between parent, child, grandparent, grandchild, and spouses. Mm-hmm. And because that's another thing, you talk about the gun show loophole. A lot of people, when they mention that, they fail to recognize that under Pennsylvania law, you've got this additional restriction requiring going through that FFL or the Sheriff's Department, filling out that paperwork for the transfer of handguns. So that really only works if you're getting your gun from grandpa and you're going to the gun show to get your gun from grandpa, right? Then you don't have to do any paperwork if you do it that way. That's the only way in Pennsylvania. But what the court ultimately said was, no, even though they're keeping these records, that is not a registry, because you can own some types of firearms in Pennsylvania, and you can own even handguns in Pennsylvania that would not be in that registry. So let's say a guy moves to Pennsylvania from Oklahoma with a handgun, right? He wouldn't have to register that handgun. So Pennsylvania, they're not a registry, wouldn't have any record of that one. Or if grandpa transfers to grandson, there wouldn't have any record in the not a registry that grandson now has it. Or transfer long guns between eligible adults who reside in Pennsylvania, that wouldn't have to go through that process. They wouldn't have to fill out that form. So that wouldn't be in the not a registry. Now, one of the, they kind of did some gymnastics to get there. I can see what they're saying, but Judge Friedman, I believe it was, wrote the dissent. Mm-hmm. And it was basically, I'm not saying these are words, but she's like, hold on a second here. Am I taking crazy pills? Because this looks an awful lot like a registry. How is that not a registry? Of course it's a registry. And I think you mentioned that, said something about if it looks like a duck and walks like a duck, right?
It probably is a duck, right? You learned that in medical school. So because all firearms are not in a registry, that means some firearms can't be in a registry. That's their logic. I mean, that doesn't work. That doesn't work in a syllogism, Mike.
It's only a registry if all the firearms, if it's absolutely complete. So where does it end, though? Where does it end? Mm-hmm. How complete do you have to be for it to be a registry?
Right.
Anyway,
exactly.
That's how they got away with it. But here are my ultimate thoughts. I don't agree with the majority's logic. I think that they did some gymnastics to get there. Mm-hmm. But there's certainly enough room in the statute for them to get there. And it's really on the legislature from there on out, because if they looked at this and said, hold on a sec, that's not at all what we meant. Of course we meant that this kind of thing would be a registry. That's not allowed. Then they really should have gone back to the drawing board and clarified and tightened up the law and made it so that this wouldn't be allowed. And they haven't done that. It's been a few years since that case took place, right, Dr. Val?
It has. Yeah, it has been a few years. Was it 2001 or something like that?
So hurry up and get to work, Dr. Val. Get out there.
Got a lot to do, I mean, but yeah, that's something that another bill the governor would veto.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. But again, we got to find out where people stand. So
that's right.
So as of right now, people are more concerned than ever. As things progress with the Biden administration, we're watching the House burn down, and the leftists sitting there with their cup of coffee claiming that everything is fine and this is great. People are very concerned about their gun rights. As gun owners in Pennsylvania, what do you recommend that our listeners do to make sure that they're doing everything they can to protect their rights?
Yeah, I mean, you got to get involved. You got to stay involved and informed. That's the first thing, and contact your legislators. And I think the best way to do that is really to join Gun Owners of America. We keep you up to date, not only what's happening here in Harrisburg, but also in Washington D.C., where a lot of the action's happening now. If you go to the main website, it's gunowners.org/join. And for $25 you can be a member. You can sign up for our email list there for free too if you'd like. And it's really about just you keeping informed. And we send you an email. There's a little button on it to take action. Automatically loads up your state representatives or state senator or your Congress people or your U.S. senator, whoever we're sending it to. It's automatic, and it's a pre-printed letter. You can make adjustments to it if you'd like, and then you can send it off. I mean, so we make it really easy for you to protect your rights.
So one last question. This is sort of a fun thing. I'm not putting you on the spot, and
Okay.
if you want to say you don't know, that's fine too. I love that. There it is. Everything's fine.
It's all fine.
The United States of America right now. Dr. Val, who do you think is going to run for governor?
Well,
You've got no comment. That's fine too. I know I'm putting you on the
have
spot
some
here.
comments on that. We know who the front runner will be on the Democratic side. We know who that is going to be. It's going to be the worst nightmare for gun owners. It's Josh Shapiro. I mean, that would be a dumpster fire if he became our next governor for gun rights.
Worse than Wolf? I mean, because how much worse can it get?
Yeah, he's bad, but I think Shapiro is much more of a anti-firearms ideologue than Governor Wolf. But in practicality, in terms of vetoing bills, they'll probably be about the same. But Shapiro may take a more aggressive stance with executive actions and things like that, which he has already shown that he's willing to do. So I think this is a problem. And on the Republican side, I think was it Lou Bartolotta might throw his hat in the ring. Then Senator Doug Mastriano has not made his mind up yet.
I was going to ask. And
I am strongly suggesting to him that he should probably try to run for governor. He's very popular throughout the state, and he's done a lot of good work. He says he has over 600,000 people who follow him.
Wow.
I mean, and I did some comparisons with him and other people in the state Senate, and there's no comparison with how many people follow him. But he has not made his mind up yet. But I would say, we would strongly encourage that option. Yes.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, he would be great.
No kidding.
Yep.
Yeah, I love listening to him.
What about Donald Trump Jr.?
That rumor, yes.
You have heard that.
Because we know Sean Parnell threw his hat in the U.S. Senate race, and so is Connor Lamb. So they may face off again for Toomey's seat.
Wow, that would be something. Be something.
Mm-hmm.
Well, any parting words for us, Dr. Val? We really appreciate your time and appreciate you joining us.
As I always say at the end of my podcast to everyone, stand up for your rights and stand fast. Hold the line, get involved, join GOA, and get on our list and take action.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Val. Keep us posted. You've got an open invitation on this program.
Thank you.
There we go.
For those of us just tuning in, you're listening to Mike G in the Morning with The Law Matters, only on the Freedom Station, WFYL. So, it's been a couple of weeks since we've been on the air. So, Philly, Chris, Russ, I want to sort of get back into things, pick up where we left off, sort of address some of the things that have transpired in the couple of weeks that we've been off.
Yeah.
We want to start by offering our most sincere condolences to the Locke family. I can't say enough about Al Locke, who passed away. WFYL has been run and owned by Sue and Al Locke for many years, and they've given their lives to this station. They've really put in a ton of blood, sweat, and tears, and I want to really recognize Al for his contributions not only to this program, but to the station, to the conservative Christian community in Pennsylvania, for his service to this country in the military. I'm at a loss for, I can't say enough good things about Al Locke, the kind of man that he was, and how we really lost him far too soon. Now, Philly Chris, you were able to attend his funeral. Why don't you tell us a little bit about all the people that were there recognizing him and, sort of the things they had to say about him?
Yeah, it was a really beautiful, service, and it was at the Washington Memorial Chapel in Valley Forge. Russ was there and several other friends of the show, and it was really touching to see how many people came out to support Susan and family, and friends of WFYL, and a lot of folks were able to share some personal stories about him at the end. And I was really actually touched, Russ, by, a lot of what you shared about your experience with looking for a job and learning about WFYL and them giving you a chance to, work for the show and become a major part of the production side of things with WFYL. So yeah, it was a really touching day. And maybe to share a quick personal story myself, I haven't spent a lot of time with Al, but had the opportunity to go up to spend some time with him at the antenna when we were upgrading the transmitter. And I was just so taken back by how strong, he is. I know he had been dealing with some health issues, and he's quite a few years my senior, although I'm probably older than him, when we joke around on the show and all that. But he wouldn't let me. I wanted to climb up on the ladder because he was making some connections to some of the antenna stuff, and he wouldn't let me go up there, Mike. And I was like, really, no, I'm happy to do it. I want to do it. And, he was the kind of man who was like, no, I'm going up there. And, even though for him, it was probably a little bit more of a challenge, maybe physically, than I'm sure he had to deal with when he was in his younger years, he still did it, and I was really touched by that he was just that kind of man, that he was going to lead the way no matter what. So, and it's been my honor.
And he wasn't really a loud guy, but he was definitely a powerful guy, right? So I could picture him telling you no and like putting you in your place, like no.
Right. Yeah. Kind of right. Yeah. No, it was like really
little shake of the head and like maybe a squint of the eyes and the hand, like telling you you're not doing that. But he wouldn't have shouted at you or anything like that. But he'd let you know. And that'd be it's funny. Russ put up this picture. I see the picture and I can hear him talking because he had such a distinct voice, a distinct cadence. And for someone who was, owned the station, it's not like, as long as I've been a part of the station, that he's really been an on-air personality or anything like that.
Yeah, sure.
But he knew all of the issues of everything inside and out. This was not just a business to him. This was
right.
A big part of his life. It was an important mission almost, where the mission was to get the truth out there.
Absolutely.
And I don't know if people know this about WFYL. We complain about, the YouTube censorship and everything like that, but this station has endured some serious physical attacks over the years for the message that has been put out on our airwaves. Absolutely. And Al has had to deal with those constantly. Get in there, roll up his sleeves, get his hands dirty, and fix things, get the station on the air. Right. Incredible. I mean, I remember doing this program in the beginning, live program with call-ins, and when we, pretty much out of the gate, we were pretty hot with the call-in format. We had people calling in nonstop for the entire hour. I'm blessed and fortunate to have had it that way, which kept us on the air long enough to get to this point.
Right.
But with us doing that, we're getting started at 7:00 in the morning. We're in there 6:45. This man owns the station. And he's in there taking calls. Right. I'm behind the microphone. He's taking the calls and giving me Post-it notes with whoever's on the phone. And half the time it was totally wrong. That was pretty funny. Get the complete wrong name or something like that. Who wants to talk about what? It was pretty funny. He was so involved with the station, with the programs. And out of the gate, who the heck was I at a single program that was on at 7 o'clock in the morning?
Right.
Unless you listen to We the People, or unless you had read my book or had been a part of the firearms community, you wouldn't have known. And I really had never had the opportunity to talk about other political things. It was
Sure.
strictly firearms. That's all that I had spoken about. And to give me this opportunity and to work with me and to really be a part of everything, he is part of the program, a part of my life.
Right.
I can't thank him enough for everything that he did for me personally, for my family, for our community, for conservative talk radio in general. And he always had plans to do more. He had a big vision, this man. He was always making moves to get bigger and to get the word out there further. And
Absolutely.
the kind of guy where he didn't take no for an answer. Very, very persistent, Didn't let
Right.
anything get him down. Always real clear-headed. Always understood, okay, this is what we've got to do to achieve this goal. Didn't let anything get him down. He's the kind of guy where if we were in some kind of a natural disaster or something,
Right. Yeah.
I'd
True-
want to
true
be
leader,
with him.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, true leader.
Yeah.
That's absolutely right. It's like, okay, listen, I don't know what to do. Maybe I'm not panicking here, but we're just going to listen to Al. Al will know what to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Kind of
voice
thing
was
like
very
an
soft.
Ollie
and
North
comfortable,
kind of
yeah.
guy, And
Right,
matter of fact, maybe we could come up with, figure out a way to get some of his airtime or something and bring that on the program sometime.
Oh, that'd be nice,
Because
yeah.
it'd be nice to just be able to hear his voice again,
Yeah,
And
that's a great idea. Yeah.
I regret that I wasn't able to attend the funeral personally.
Yeah. Well, you guys
Not
had
only
things
death
going
in
on,
the
yeah.
family, but dealt with a little bit of illness after that death in the family. We're going to miss Al tremendously. Our hearts are broken for Susan and their children. Russ, do you have anything you want to say about Al?
Well, beyond what I already said at the funeral, I do know that he was a beacon for a lot of people. A lot of people leaned on him when they didn't know what to do. And I mean, Susan being married to him, I imagine she leaned on him quite a bit. As a he was very much a grounding point for a lot of us. His friend Vince, I know when Vince was having trouble, he would call on Al and be like, "Hey Al, I don't know what to do in this situation," and I leaned a good amount on him too, and I take a lot of I'm very different from when I was first hired, or at least I like to think so. When I realized the one time when I was locked out of the building, I didn't have my key with me, and I called Al. I was kind of in a panic because we had a recording, and he was very calm, and that struck me as, what am I panicking for?
Always. I mean, we had
always
like
calm.
disasters minutes before getting on the air, and everybody else is freaking out. And I was like, everybody calm down. We get this figured out. Here, be able to slow things down like that. I can just picture you saying, "Al, I'm locked out of the studio. I can't get it." He's like, "Hold on. Do you have a grappling hook in your trunk, Russ?" He's like, "What? No, I don't have a. What do you mean?" He said, "All right, let's go on to Plan B."
You mean everybody
Right.
doesn't have that?
Doesn't everybody have a grappling hook? Of course I do.
Right. Yeah.
Well, next time you'll be prepared, Russell.
But,
Next time you'll know that you need a grappling hook in your trunk for these types of situations.
Well, another thing that I noticed was he was always careful in what he would say. He didn't talk fast, But you could, but
Right.
like you said, his words were powerful, and it's because he thought about what he was going to say before he said it, and that is very important.
There's a lot of people out there whose mouths move faster than their brain. Al Locke was not one of those people.
Right.
He definitely thought before he spoke. That's an excellent point, Russ. Liberty,
Yeah.
do you have anything that you'd like to say about Al?
Sure. I also regret not being able to go to the funeral. Al was just such a great person. He was somebody that you wanted to learn from. I didn't know him that long, but I knew him long enough. But out of everything, what really stood out to me was he just seemed to have a servant's heart from the very get-go. I was learning some things from Susan at one point, and he knew all the little stuff. The little and big stuff. He knew about the wires, the antenna, the satellite, and putting out all these fires like somebody else said. But then he had the time to always just come in and check on Susan and ask if we needed anything to eat, if we needed anything. And just, he was so, I remember the way he looked at Susan. I don't know if that's overstepping or anything, but just, you can just tell there was a true love there, and he wanted her to be okay. And he wanted to help her with anything she needed. And even as owners of a business, it was just so perfect. And the way that they, counteracted each other, it was just amazing. I wanted to know more about their story. I wanted to know more about them. And that's really what I'll take away and remember, because they just ran such a tight ship and so great, but they also showed such love. And I think I'll always remember that, just the way that he wanted to serve Susan, serve me, serve anybody that was there. He wanted to ask if you were okay or what you needed.
Right.
Yeah.
Those are excellent points. Really shows the kind of guy that he was. And you raise a good point. You said you didn't know him all that long. Really, I've only been with WFYL. I think I started appearing as a guest in 2018.
Yep.
2017, 2018.
Well, you had your official show in, I think, 2018 when you filled in for Dan McCon when I believe Laura Loomer was on at that time.
Is it the end of eight? That was at the end of. Okay, so then I've been appearing on WFOL since 2017 because I joined. I was on several shows as a guest and ended up at the Christmas party with Al and Susan, and that's when I got to meet Phil Duffy and joined We the People. And then roughly a year after that is when we started this program, airing before We the People. So stick around for We the People after this program. But certainly, you look 4 years, let's say I know Al. I feel like I've known the guy my entire life. He was just that kind of guy, had that kind of impact on everybody that he met. We're going to miss him tremendously. We're going to fight to keep his legacy alive and continue to carry out the mission at hand as he would have wanted. And this won't be the last we talk about Al. We'll keep him involved in the program, and I'm sure we'll all go to visit him sometime soon. So from the bottom of our hearts, Al, thank you. We love you, and we'll see you again someday soon. For those of us just tuning in, you're listening to Mike G in the Morning with The Law Matters, only on the Freedom Station, WFYL. So, tough to follow up on that. We do have a lot to talk about. There have been a couple of weeks off the air. I feel like every week when we get on the air, there's so much to talk about. When you take a couple of weeks off, it's like, oh my goodness.
Right.
How many different things have happened since the last time we were on the air? Last time we were on the air, we were dealing imminently with that threat of censorship, having videos being removed, and dealing with strikes, things of that nature, and, figuring out what we can say versus what we can't say, and how do we stay on the air. And interesting enough, that episode that we did, reading through the policies, That's still there.
Right.
Has
Right.
not yet been removed. Meanwhile, for
Interesting.
doing just about
Yeah.
the same exact thing we removed the previous week. I mean, we
Right.
did nothing different in episode that is still up than episode that was removed and upheld on appeal.
Well,
It
I can
still
explain
makes
that.
zero sense to me.
I can
What's that?
explain that, Mike. I can explain.
Sure.
Okay, ready? Because screw logic.
Yeah, that about sums it up, Russ. Yeah.
Yup.
Yep. That sums it up.
There's
Mhm.
no logic involved, sir.
That's right. Yeah, don't be logical with this stuff. Yeah. Yeah, lots
Oh.
happened. Quite a bit.
So what is on the agenda for today? What do we have?
Let's see here. Yeah, there's been so much going on.
Do we want
Let's
to talk
see.
about that clip that I prepared, or is that
Oh,
too
yeah.
risky for
Start with
YouTube?
that? Yeah. Mm. Yeah, go ahead. That's a good idea, Russ. Let's start there,
Okay.
and we'll roll into it.
Okay, well let me get this prepared over here. You can listen
Oh,
to my
okay.
chair
All right,
squeak
all
on the
right.
way over.
Well, you see that that pastor got arrested too up in Canada. Did you guys see that, Mike?
I think. my computer
Yes,
froze.
I
Right,
did.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So, I enjoyed watching his videos because he was standing up for what's right, but I guess they
This
wanted
is
to silence
certainly
him.
going to get yanked now because certainly going to get yanked, right?
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
And talk about the
No.
truth. Yeah.
No, Chris. They
Hmm.
have changed our minds. We totally agree with them arresting the pastor
That's right.
because
Yeah.
because the governmental authorities know best, and we will not question anything that they say. So if they said that arresting the pastor is good for everybody, we
Right.
agree with it. All right?
I apologize. Yeah, I apologize. I'll do better next time.
You should be sorry.
So what do we got? What do we got over here?
Okay,
Russ?
so this is according to the CDC, by the way. This is the CDC lady. Okay. So let me bring it up so everybody can see, so I don't look crazy. Here we. Oh, let me get rid of that. Wrong thing. All
One you're
right.
talking about or the other one?
Okay. Yes.
Mhm.
Okay. So this is from the CDC. Essentially, this lady says, if you got vaccinated, you no longer have to wear a mask. This is according to the CDC. YouTube can eat a whole bowl of socks
So,
if
what
they
you're-
shut us down for this.
the CDC. So you said this is what the CDC said. You're not saying you agree with it, right?
I'm not saying anything.
Yeah.
I'm
You're
not.
just saying
I'm
this
not
is what the
saying.
CDC
I'm not.
said.
There
Are
are
you
no words coming
silencing
out of my
yourself,
mouth
though?
in
You-
regard to this.
So
other
let's-
than
let's
it's a
hear
video.
What the CDC said. Wait, are we supposed to agree with the CDC, or are we not supposed to agree with the CDC?
I don't know.
I just
Whatever,
wanna make
whatever
sure
the
we do the
YouTube
right thing.
You're
overlords
supposed to on
decide.
YouTube. You have
Yeah.
to.
But no, I thought that on YouTube you're supposed to agree with the WHO.
Oh.
Who?
Well, if in question, don't question authority. Yeah.
Who?
It's I think CDC and the WHO are
I think they're
both
they're
are.
Well, would the
They're-
CDC be local
Well,
authorities?
that's
Both
not what
of
the
them, I think.
policies say, though. YouTube's
Oh.
gonna, YouTube's just dying to yank this down, so they can be like, "Oh, we're sorry."
Okay,
The correct
alright.
answer
So-
was the WHO.
Oh, you didn't answer in
They're
the
like,
form
Ron,
of
who
a
wants to-
question.
Be a millionaire.
Wah,
The final question.
Right.
We regret to inform you that we're not down with this. It's the
Yeah.
CDC.
Well,
No, I am
yeah.
just joking. I'm not saying that's my personal policy. I'm
Mhm.
saying
Mhm. No, don't say that.
joke.
no.
Yeah.
Please, Mike.
say-
Mike, just stop saying words.
Just
Let's just
Just
all
let-
sit
let's
here in
just hear from the
silence.
CDC.
Play the video. I ain't
Okay,
gonna
let's
do
hear
it.
from the
okay.
overlord.
Right.
Okay, here we go. This is according to the CDC, by the way. I want to make that perfectly clear.
CDC is updating our guidance for fully vaccinated people. Anyone who is fully vaccinated
She's the one
can
saying-
participate in indoor and outdoor activities, large or small, without wearing a mask or physical distancing. If you are fully vaccinated, you can start doing the things that you had stopped doing because of the pandemic.
She sounds like she's in a
We
tunnel.
have all longed for this moment when we can get back to some sense of normalcy. Based on the continuing downward trajectory of cases, the scientific data on the performance of our vaccines, and our understanding of how the virus spreads.
What just happened?
That
Whoa.
moment has come for those who are fully vaccinated. Now, if you are immune compromised,
my
you
computer
will
had a
most
stroke.
definitely want to talk to your doctor before giving up your mask. Also, locations such as healthcare facilities will continue to follow their specific infection control recommendations. And lastly, this past year has shown us that this virus can be unpredictable. So if things get worse, there is always a chance we may need to make change to these recommendations. But we know that the more people are vaccinated, the less cases we will have and the less chance of a new spike or additional variants emerging. If you develop symptoms, you should put your mask back on and get tested right away. The science is also very clear about unvaccinated people. You remain at risk of mild or severe illness, of death, or of spreading the disease to others. You should still mask and you should get vaccinated right away. This is an exciting and powerful moment. It could only happen because of the work of so many who made sure we had the rapid administration of 3 safe and effective vaccines. It could also only happen because we have an adequate supply of those vaccines for everyone 12 years and older in this country. Your health and how soon you return to normal life before the pandemic are in your very capable hands. If you are not yet vaccinated, please go to vaccines.gov or text your zip code to GetVax, that is 438-829, to find a vaccine in your area. Once you are fully vaccinated, 2 weeks after your last dose, you can shed your mask.
I have to shed my mask
Now,
like it
by
grew
the way,
over
Russ,
me?
by the way, you're a real nerd, Russ. You know that, by the way?
Oh, thanks.
Excuse me, this.
Today,
you were
CDC
you're
is
discussing
updating our
something
guidance
that
for
is,
fully vaccinated people.
something that involves a quantity of things that is counted rather than measured. That's what you use fewer, ladies and gentlemen.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like your commentary there along the way. That was pretty
Fewer!
good.
That's the problem that he had with the whole thing. Right?
Yeah.
Yes,
Now,
that is
here,
the problem I have
got-
with the whole thing.
I've got our trusty. Yeah, that's right. You have no other problems with it unless we have problems with it if it is inconsistent with the guidance of the WHO or
Right,
local health authorities.
No.
right?
Wait, I want to clarify that. I have a problem with it if it's not in line with the YouTube guidelines. Then I agree with
There you go.
everything the YouTube
No, that's
overlords
perfect.
have to
You've settled
say.
Settled.
You figured it out. You cracked the case, Russ. You cracked the case. Because it does say, it says local health authorities or the World Health Organization's medical information. So
Well,
they are, it says WHO and not CDC. So if
Well,
in theory, if the
hang
CDC
on.
did contradict the WHO, I'm not saying that they do, but if they did, then that would be unacceptable, right? So
Correct.
if the CDC can be taken down for medical misinformation if it contradicts the WHO.
I suppose.
Because it says local health authorities. So you've got different local health authorities. What
Yeah.
if any of them are contradictory? How would that policy work?
Quite the quandary.
As long as it's in line
Then
with
we
the
agree
YouTube
with
policies.
we agree with all of them, right? We just agree with all of them.
Yeah,
We don't
yep,
contradict any
yep.
of them.
No, just
We
right.
agree with all of them.
Yep.
Depends on
We
what day
agree
it
with
is too.
all
Really.
local health authorities and the World Health Organization, and
Hmm.
that's it. That's it.
Yep.
Agree
Well,
with
the-
them.
Mike, I did look up the rules for what the rules are in the North Pole for my local health authorities.
Oh
and,
yeah.
and
yeah.
they
You
are
talked
in
to Santa?
agreement. They are in agreement with this. So and I believe in Pennsylvania where WFYL is stationed. I mean,
Right.
you guys could be anywhere because you're on the computer.
Mm-hmm.
So in Pennsylvania, it's also in line. You can Google it. Do I have to show it on the screen? Would that make you happy, overlords?
I believe so.
Right.
Okay. I'm going to show it on the screen. Nobody panic. You guys can talk though. This is a radio show.
We'll talk amongst ourselves. Yeah. Yeah. Well, at least some people will be able to have a normal life again. That's nice, I guess.
Well, we don't know. Do we know where the WHO stands? Because you might have just got us kicked off. Because if they say no, you can't do that.
Oh, right. Well, yeah.
But some local health authorities, can we look at like the local health authority in South Dakota or something like that and just stick with them the whole time?
Right. Yeah, we need to look into this local thing. Is that your own personal doctor? I think we talked about that a few weeks back. Is that your own personal doctor? Or is that a local expert? How do they define that? So, yeah.
Whatever it is, we agree with it, right?
Sure. Yeah. Right.
No, stop auto-playing. Screw you, ABC. Guys, I hate ABC. They have autoplay videos. Never watch them.
Okay.
Yep.
So what else is going on?
Pile of socks.
Everybody have enough gas? Everybody good on their gas tanks right now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, it looks like they paid $5 million ransom to get their data back, but apparently it's trickling through.
Oh,
very
good!
slowly.
I can't wait to pay that back.
Yeah, right.
Because it'll
right,
be
right.
passed on to the customers.
I thought you weren't supposed to negotiate with terrorists, but apparently they did.
We don't negotiate with terrorists. Well, sometimes we do.
Yeah,
I'm gonna say hack the oil, then maybe.
Here's $5 million. Yeah, can we get our data back?
Okay, $5 million, not a penny more.
Right.
That's it. I'm taking a stand.
Yeah, I'm gonna hack the show and take everything, and then call Russ. I want $5 million. No, it's crazy. But you know what's scary about this though, and troubling is that it's literally 45% of the supply of fuel for the eastern part of the United States, and these their infrastructure just shouldn't be connected to the internet. The vulnerability with something like that. And what else? What about our power grids and other main infrastructure and architecture throughout the country is vulnerable like that? What's going to happen next?
Is that really the concern here? It's like, well, if they can do that,
right,
then what's next?
Well, I looked into the iceberg. I was looking into this a little bit, and apparently the organization that's taken responsibility is called DarkSide, and thankfully they do have a code of conduct, though, and they also donate some of the money to charity. This is what they say. I'm actually being serious. Yeah, no, really, yeah. DarkSide, you could look it up apparently, and yeah, they have. I guess they won't hack or hold hospitals and medical care facilities and things of that nature. They won't attack those groups, but apparently they'll go after the gas supply for half the country, which could obviously be a problem. So, yeah, DarkSide apparently.
So why did they choose now as opposed to last year? Coincidence?
I think maybe because it was going into the gas. Gas is more in demand right now. Things are basically opening back up. We have summertime, I believe. People are vacationing, and the demand on gas is higher. So I'm assuming maybe that was some of their reasoning, but who knows? Or it was just a opportunity. They got the data, and it was, as soon as they got in, they did it. But I don't know how long they've had the data. So, yeah.
Well. Yeah, there's been a lot of people saying, like a bunch of messages, hey, go ahead and top off and get gas while you can.
Right.
Might not be available too much longer. You were saying something about how in the old days they used to have rationing where you can only get them on certain days of the week.
Yeah, back in my 80s, like back in the 70s, I remember vaguely.
The 1870s, right?
Right, the 1870s, yeah. But, living in Boston as a child, I remember when they had the gas lines, and I think you had to go on certain days depending on how your plate number ended or something like that. So, rationing it. And that's been happening down south. There's people who can't get gas right now down there and have been waiting in line, and I think some other places only let you get so many gallons. So, it looks like they're getting things back online, so maybe we won't see too much of an issue, but the data is not coming back that quickly, apparently. So they're not fully operational, and it's basically half the gas supply for the country. So we'll see what happens in the next few days. Yeah.
Well, did you guys see that they were getting them in plastic bags? Did anybody see that?
I saw something about that. Yeah.
Gas in a
And
bag.
Yeah,
actually,
yeah.
there was an article that on one of the
There
Pennsylvania
goes.
articles that they were
Yes.
telling you they had to
Yeah,
like
not
put
to
an
do that,
article
right?
out that
Yeah.
said not to do that.
Yeah. That's like a
They
Darwin
had to
Award
put
thing
out
or
an
something,
article,
yeah.
so don't put gas in a
Yeah,
bag.
it came up on
Mhm.
my it came up on Facebook, and it was like an article from one of the Pennsylvania places, and it said, yeah, don't do this.
Right.
Bag of gas.
So flakies in here. Get yourself a bag of gas.
Trying to find the article.
That's pretty.
That is crazy. I don't know why you would do that.
Yeah, it says even if there's a fuel shortage, feds warn do not fill plastic. It's a federal warning. Do not fill plastic bags with gasoline.
Mm.
They're putting out like the feds are putting out a warning. Do not fill plastic bags with gasoline. That's an actual message from the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission on Tuesday. The bizarre message comes during an ongoing fuel crisis. in the Southeast.
Right.
Anyway, but
So
we know this sounds simple, but when people get desperate, they stop thinking clearly.
Right. Yeah.
They
Apparently.
take risks. They can have deadly consequences. I mean, I guess it's better than putting it in your mouth. Didn't people used to do it, like siphoned it?
Yeah.
You know, someone's thinking about bringing a container not meant for fuel to get gas. Please let them know it's dangerous. Okay, this could be Russ's. Sorry, Russ. I took one of your announcements for the end. Your
oh no, I
PSAs.
got a different one. I got a different
Okay.
one for today.
All right. I'm not stepping on your raining on your parade.
No, you don't have to step on my toes.
Yeah.
But ouch, thanks.
And by the way, it's hard to Google to find information from WHO. I guess you have to go to their website because it's kind of like the who's on first thing. I Googled who wearing a mask.
I'm not great. It's not that great.
And it was like, who?
I'm not saying I disagree with it. I love not great websites.
But it wouldn't come up because
Right?
you're right. Who
Right.
wearing mask vaccinated? I wanted to see, and it was all CDC stuff. Like you can't even get to it, so you have to actually go to their
Right.
website.
Yeah. I don't know if you
Well,
want to
I
pull
dropped
that up,
it in the
Russ.
doc.
Dude.
I dropped a link in the doc for the WHO thing, the WHO.
Mm.
Sure. Yeah. And looked at it, and it's like
Are we gonna get pulled if
feel
we
like-
say it wrong? How is
like
it pronounced?
It's a treasure hunt, right? It's a little bit of a treasure hunt over here
Yeah.
to
Gotta look for
figure out what the guidance is.
Yeah.
I'm attending a gathering. What precautions should I take? Always check local regulations before attending events. So the local regulations, pointing back to stay at home if you're feeling unwell,
Yeah.
and
Well,
always maintain at least 1 meter distance from others. Come on, this is America. We don't know what a meter
Well,
is.
a meter's like 3 feet,
Who
guys.
said that?
Right,
So
right.
it's
Mm.
like 3
And
point
always
something
wear a
feet.
mask if you cannot guarantee the distance. Cover a sneeze or a cough with a tissue or bent elbow and immediately dispose of tissue in the closed lid bin. Avoid touching eyes, nose, and mouth. Wash your hands frequently with soap and water or with hand sanitizer. And those are.
Oh, I'm glad they
So
told me
do
that.
they
I was
say
gonna watch
anything
them
about
with
the
bees.
vaccine and gatherings.
Well,
On
Pennsylvania
the
has it.
WHO.
Where are you looking at this? I'm seeing what Pennsylvania COVID rules.
Oh,
I'm seeing WHO.int
hang on.
is where I'm
I
getting
have,
this.
I have it in the doc. Let me get this.
You know, it's interesting they didn't mention that if you already
Wah!
have had the virus and confirmed, tested positive for it, that you really shouldn't need to wear a mask either because you're going to actually have a higher antibody
Who
rate.
says
than-
though?
Yeah.
Who says that? Let me ask you this:
A fellow from Harvard
w-
said that.
if wearing the mask is in theory to prevent other people
Hmm.
from catching something that you are carrying, if you are personally
Right.
immune, does that mean that you can't carry the virus and transmit it to others? I
I
don't
believe once you've had it and you have the antibodies in your system, then you really shouldn't. It's kind of like the
You're
chicken pox,
guessing.
You're
Yeah,
guessing.
yeah.
You're guessing.
Well, yeah, I'm guessing. I'm not a doctor, but I
Yeah.
believe
Does anybody actually know though?
based
No,
on
I don't
the,
think
I
anybody
don't
knows
think
yet.
so. That's why.
Well, there was
that's
a-
why if
I thought I had
we're-
WHO links in the.
I don't have the guy's name in front of me, but there was a very well accredited and highly recognized doctor who went
Okay,
to.
but-
We
a-
better see the
and-
links, Philly Chris.
and then he-
disagreed with one another on this, right?
You better see the links, Philly Chris. We're getting kicked off.
the links.
No,
Yeah,
I'm
I
just
know,
kidding.
right?
The link
Yeah.
to the guy. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. He was on Tucker Carlson, the Tucker's news show.
Then he must be false according to the left.
Yeah, well, there you go. Right. So,
but we haven't heard. There's nothing definitive about that, is there? Because it seems that all of the stuff that they're pushing out there has to do with vaccination rather than.
yeah.
And that's
Well,
another question. If you're vaccinated, can you not transmit it? Because they've been telling us for all this time that masks are to prevent
Right.
you from spreading it. They're not to
Right.
protect you, right?
Yeah, to
prevent
protect
you from
others.
spreading
Yeah.
it. Do we know anything about that? I guess we can't even talk about it, right?
No,
Well,
Let's
guess-
look on the
I
website.
guess-
I'll tell you this much. The medical community is split. This is coming from an actual doctor, but there's absolutely no yes or no on either end. But if you do Google, which I've done multiple times, if you've had COVID, do you need to get the vaccine? They say absolutely yes. That is their answer. It's that you need to still get vaccinated even if you've had the virus.
Well,
This-
see,
They're
the
putting out there.
maybe we could talk about it in a future episode, or we can get the guy's name. But one of the things that I took away from the appearance there on Tucker Carlson, and this gentleman, as I mentioned, was involved with Penn and also Harvard, and he specifically stated that if you have confirmation that you've had the virus and you have the antibodies, that you should avoid, in his opinion, getting vaccinated because it can actually possibly do some damage to your immune system because you already have immunity. So especially if there's some sort of overlap there, and there have been some negative reactions. So I'm surprised that since his appearance or since that scientific information has been shared, they haven't been telling people if you've already had it, you've tested positive.
His-
They're
then you
not.
shouldn't.
His
Yeah.
position, right?
That's
That
his,
is-
yeah.
Yeah.
But
But he's
like-
also
Well,
one of the
guys.
top doctors for
Yeah, but they're
like a
fu-
virologist in the
No,
country,
Chris,
so.
we only agree with
Yeah,
only
Philly,
agree
Chris,
with
they're not-
WHO and the
Yeah, they're
World
not
Health
putting that out
Organization.
there. I had
I'm
a
not
doctor
saying I would,
before.
listen
I-
to the guy
no,
being
but
an
this is
expert.
not-
Chris,
Yeah,
you're
no,
fired.
This is not my opinion. This is what Google says, what CDC says. Like, because
Right.
I've been looking for it. What do they say? But an actual doctor told me on the side, she thinks that once you have it, you have immunity, and she believes in that. But and I keep looking to see updated information, and they still are firm saying get the vaccine if you've had it. And I have the same thing. I know people in my family who got the vaccine after they had COVID, and they got full blown COVID.
Right.
From the vaccine. Like I don't want to say from the vaccine.
Sure,
but
sure.
Put it this way: they got the vaccine, then they got COVID. So nobody really knows. But then there's other people who are fine. You know, it's very
Mhm.
strange.
So different people
As
have
other
different
doctors say, we're all
reactions
guinea
to it.
pigs right now. So I don't know.
Yeah,
Right.
basically.
Yeah.
Well,
it's a
okay,
big trial.
guys,
It's,
guys. Now that we said all the things, and then we said the opposite of all the things, this video is guaranteed to be taken off of YouTube.
No, that's all right. At least we're sharing
Yep.
what we think is right.
I don't think so
Suppose.
because we
It's
said
gonna happen anyway.
What do you mean? Chris
on.
is like, as long as we're able to talk out of our armpits and guess about something that we think we might know something about or not sure.
Well, I
then
mean, doing the
that's-
right
then
thing
that-
is what
that's
that's
worth it. Then
yeah.
that's
But
all
I have a
worth.
question.
Right.
If you say that you've had face to face with a doctor who said this, isn't that just an experience? I mean, I experienced
Well-
that a doctor said this. How is that medical misinformation?
Well,
They're telling
you-
me
Right.
this.
Well,
I
you
didn't say this
see,
is fact.
you
The last
see,
time I
a
checked,
lot
you
of people
should be
can
able to
say
get
a
a
lot
second
of
opinion.
things. A lot of people
We're-
can say a
we're-
lot of things, you guys. Okay.
Yeah, well,
A
that's
lot
true.
of a lot of people.
A lot of
So
things.
if somebody says they're a doctor, are they a doctor?
Hey,
Hey, Dr. Phil, are you a
She was an
doctor?
actual doctor. Anyway, she
Hey,
told me
Dr.
that, so
Oz.
that was not
Is that
coming
your real
from me, overlords, but that was coming
Right.
from a doctor. And just like Philly Chris quoting a doctor that was on national television show. I mean, what else can you?
The only doctor I trust is Dr. YouTube and Dr. Pepper.
That's
Mhm.
about
Yeah,
you.
there you go. Yeah. Mhm.
YouTube and Dr. Pepper. For those
like
of us
that.
just tuning in, you're listening to Mike G in the morning with The Law Matters, only on the Freedom Station, WFYL.
I like the name of the
So-
show. I like the name
And
of the
it
show.
is-
The law
One
matters,
more thing about
not
that.
the YouTube guidelines.
So every time
matter.
me, Philly Chris, or anybody says anything against the CDC or WHO, it just basically is confirming that Mike is going to have a battle with YouTube.
Yep.
Right,
law.
right.
Good
Yeah,
thing
a
he's a
law battle.
lawyer.
Thank you. So,
Well, there was
I
that
guess
part of
we
the.
can say this.
Be careful.
Well, I'll just come out and say it. We were not on the air last week because I had the virus.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There it is.
Is that medical
I am
misinformation?
recovered. That is not medical misinformation. That is a fact.
Right.
I tested positive. Fortunately, I was not hospitalized, and I am cleared. I've been all cleared since this has taken place.
Thankfully.
It's been 2 weeks. And interesting experience. I'll tell you what, the first thing that happened as soon as I tested positive, I called a buddy of mine. And he's a buddy who I have a lot of these conversations with. And we can just be straight on this. Chris, I push back on you on a lot of things related to the virus, right?
Sure.
And, you know, we have robust discussions, I guess you would say.
Right.
I've certainly not been one to come on the air and deny the virus, claim it to be a hoax.
That's right.
Or anything of that nature. I haven't ever. Right. Now I might question big text restrictions on what you can or cannot say. I may not agree with those.
And you should be ashamed of yourself.
Pull yourself together, Mike. Pull yourself together.
I might have called into question on certain occasions.
Right.
These big tech policies, restrictions on freedom of speech. I may have called into question. I guess I can't say anything on. I can't say this on YouTube, but you know what I'm thinking, right?
Yeah.
I may have encouraged discussions about what government regulations ought to be. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's fair.
The extent of government intervention and how they should intervene, I may have encouraged vigorous debate and discussion in those regards. But I have never, on any occasion, denied the virus, claimed it to be a hoax, or anything of that nature. I haven't. Now, there are some people who share a lot of my political ideals who have done so. They and I just simply don't agree on this particular thing. Doesn't mean we don't agree on anything else. But there's a buddy of mine, he's an attorney, he tends to lean left, and we've had some discussions about this. And as soon as it tested positive, I called him up. I said, listen, you got to do me a favor. If this thing kills me, you got to go on the air and tell everybody, let's set the record straight. Mike G did not deny this. He did not call it a hoax. Because you know that if I happen to die from this, then the first thing all the leftist outlets would do is they'd get up there and be like, Fox News Radio talk show conservative who denied the virus and called it a hoax. He's dead. Ha, ha, ha. Ha, ha, he's dead. So I wanted to make sure that he would set the record straight, and that's all I cared about. I'm just kidding. That's not all I cared about. But I did make that clear immediately. And, thank God I have not been hospitalized. I'm alive and well, and that's it. So,
no, I'm glad you're doing better. I know it's taking a toll on you. I haven't seen too many things slow you down. I know this definitely slowed you down a little bit, which obviously it would.
I don't think I've missed a single episode due to illness otherwise.
Right. Yeah.
I think it's only literally been funerals, family member in the hospital, or court order. I think those are the only three. So now we can add one to the list, coronavirus.
Well, it'll just make you stronger. You'll be stronger.
Well, I have a question.
To it, so.
I have a question. Mike, what were the symptoms? What did you go through while having this
tell us
crazy
about your
thing?
experience. Yeah,
well, I will tell you this. I did not lose my sense of taste or smell.
All right.
Respiratory symptoms were not too horrible. I had some little bit of congestion towards the beginning. I feel like this is too much information. I don't know how to talk about it otherwise, right? And
Yeah, no, it's
I had
good,
a lot
yeah.
of mucus.
I was sneezing and my eyes were watering and I couldn't see straight. My shoes came off my feet.
My shoes came off every time I sneezed and my back cracked. And I couldn't control my bowels.
I could only hear out of my eyes. And
And, you know, I had a buddy who was like that. He was always giving too much information about his health conditions.
Right,
It was
right.
a guy that I trained with for martial arts, and you know, I just said, "Hey, buddy, how you been?" And he would be like, "Well, actually, not too great. Been dealing with a cold these past couple of days, and had a lot of mucus, and it's like, "Ah, dude, come on." It's like just.
he's probably
Hey,
trying to
just
psych you
tell
out before
everybody you're fine, please.
before sparring. He's trying to mess you up. You know, you're like, I don't want to spar.
Yeah, I guess. so,
Maybe it was a
right?
way to get inside your head.
Right, right. Like, I'm not touching you right now.
Yeah, right. Oh no, this guy's giving me the cold.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
But other than that, towards the beginning, I could tell you the main thing that I experienced was severe fatigue, like severe fatigue and brain fog. So where the best way to describe the attorney that I work with, I share my office building with, he could get the vaccine, and he said after he got his second shot, he said the best way he could describe it is that he felt like his brain wasn't working the way it's supposed to work. And so he was unable to work. And this guy works through everything. He's like me, except, 70 plus years of age and been doing this for decades.
Oh,
Yeah, that's
wow.
awesome. Yeah.
And he had to take off of work for a day, I think it was, with the second shot. And that's how I felt. Felt extremely, extremely tired. And my brain wasn't working the way it was supposed to work. There just wasn't any way that I could have come on here and had an intelligent conversation and kept this going, particularly with the level of energy that we demand for this program. It wasn't possible. But that's about the extent of it. Never had a fever. And that was it. That was it. Fortunately, because of my family medical situation, I had to pretty much be in isolation for about a month leading up to.
Right.
So how I got it, that's another thing. People who've been around me in person know that I've been as careful as careful can be.
Very diligent.
Certainly wasn't reckless because I've got family members who are dealing with, who are severely at risk. I'm the primary, the sole caretaker for somebody who is severely at risk and has been severely at risk.
Right,
So I'm very careful about that because I don't want to pass that on to a loved one.
Yeah.
And put them in that situation.
Yeah, you're not just saying it, you're doing it. I remember being at the store with you, and I even wore gloves with you, because out of respect for you were trying to remember.
In fairness, that was actually at the very
that was
before
at the
the lockdown.
That's right.
started.
Yeah, yeah.
That
And I was
before
wearing a
the
mask
lockdown.
then. I was wearing a mask then, more.
That was before. Well, we can't talk about that. That never happened, right? Them telling us not to wear masks never happened.
Right.
We all got the Men in Black mind eraser thingy.
That's right.
And we forgot about that. That never happened.
No, that's right.
But yeah, that's it.
Well,
that
I'm glad you're doing better.
main severe fatigue at a virtual hearing on Tuesday of this past week. And at that point, I was still feeling it pretty badly, to the point where I really toughed out a hearing that lasted about 2.5, 3 hours, and then just passed out the rest of the day. Was
Gotcha.
unable to do anything else. But other than that, other than fatigue, that's really the primary symptom. No fever. I did not have severe respiratory symptoms that would require hospitalization or anything of that nature. And that's pretty much it. Now, as I understand, within the last few weeks, Liberty also had the virus. How are you doing?
Yes, that's right.
Well, I'm doing as good as I guess you can be, but I will say it was pretty tough. My parents had it back in March, and it was everything they told me it was. And I did have the respiratory symptoms, for sure. Felt like somebody sprayed poisonous gas, hot gas into my nose and lungs.
I can still hear it in your voice,
Yeah, it was straight fever and lungs for me, straight. I mean, it was immediate. It all came on very quickly, and it was just, And it was that the entire time, fever and lungs, then fatigue and some aches and rash and all different things. But I will say that the lungs have gotten me because I've never gotten any respiratory. I never had pneumonia my whole life. Rarely ever had any respiratory things. I'm a singer trained, so I know how to breathe. So I use breathing techniques the whole time. Really, really good ones. And
wait, you know how to breathe?
Breathe, like operatic breathing techniques, Russ.
Using the diaphragm, right?
Yeah, and exactly. And I think they helped me, but COVID for me was no match for my operatic breathing techniques. I couldn't fight it. My lungs were so sore from breathing, and it still didn't even put a dent in it. It was crazy. I mean, I could breathe in maybe three seconds. My normal's a lot, and I can breathe out for a while, but I was down to at least three, barely getting air in. It felt horrible, but I checked my pulse ox the whole time, and it was good. So that was the one thing that kept me out of the hospital. I have a nurse cousin who really helped me. Shout out to my nurse cousin. She checked in on me day and day night. Without her, I would have been in a hospital for sure.
Yeah, they say that's a good thing to have, that pulse ox sensor.
Yeah, and you don't want to get too obsessed about it. And everybody keeps saying that.
It's a good thing to have a cousin in the medical field.
Yeah,
she
kept telling me because she's like, listen, I want to listen to your
Can I borrow your cousin?
But yeah, if it wasn't, I would have.
It's funny. I could tell you this. When I tested positive, the first thing I did was after I called my buddy to tell him, make sure the world knows that I was not a denier, so they can't make fun of me in that regard after I'm dead.
I'm sure they would cut up your audio clips to make it sound.
I called up Philly Chris. And I was like, "Hey, man, I know you're not a big mask guy or anything like that, and you're all about it. So I tested positive. Why don't you come over and watch a movie together?"
I would have come over too if you really wanted me to. I would have totally come over.
Why didn't you come over a sleepover party, bro? Come on.
I spent that time with my dad when he had it, and I didn't wear a mask and was feeding him and all that. So no, didn't.
And how did your dad do?
Yes, you did, Chris.
Was your dad somewhere between how Mike describes and how I describe it, or how was your dad?
Yeah, he was sick. He was, it was like a flu. He did pretty well, given his age and all. Actually, I was real happy that he didn't have any serious complications, but he was totally out of commission for several days. Yeah.
Several days, or how long do you think it lasted?
About a week. Yeah, about a week. But for 3 or 4 days, he was really out of it, and I felt bad for him. And at that point, I had been around him for several days, so I figured I was already exposed to it. And realistically, I was in the same. I was down in Florida, as you guys know, did the show from down there, so I figured I was already exposed. So, and based on the research I've done, the virus is 1,000 times smaller than the mesh, according to the virologists. And there was that recent study done by Princeton. So, the mask thing, it's a personal choice. I never tell anybody else what to do. But,
we, of course, agree with the masks. If the WHO and the local authorities agree with it,
so,
then
whatever they say.
Yeah. Well,
whatever they
I can tell you one thing.
Guys,
I believe it's real. Obviously it's real. I could still get it. I haven't had it yet that I'm aware of. So who knows? I might still get it. But or I had it and didn't know it. I don't know.
One thing you kind of learn from it is that
Billy Chris gets it and it kills him, then the leftist outlets can certainly make fun of him for not believing. Right?
I'll send the leftist outlets this video.
They can absolutely.
I think there's enough.
They can go full on Lollipop Guild.
Make fun of you.
Yeah, and I believe the virus. I just don't believe the methodology. I don't support personally for my own self the methodologies and ways.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do, Chris.
Yeah.
One thing,
guys, he's just joking. He's just joking.
Yeah,
he agrees with everything.
From it, which is my experience, and YouTube can't, like I said, they can't bother me from my experience. Is that you're once you have it. Remember, I told you guys, once you have it, nobody's gonna hold your hand. It's kind of true. Like, my doctor was basically like, you're a guinea pig. He had zero answers for anything. And it was just like, how long's going to last? I don't know. What's going to happen with my lungs? I don't know. Your cough? I don't know. What's the cough medicine? It's so frustrating because you just want information. And also, I heard a lot of different things from personal doctors that I know that are very smart in researching this, and, something about O positive blood and this and that, which and everything you hope for kind of goes out the window with this virus. It's a very strange, and that makes you question science sometimes because science isn't always a perfect science.
Well, it's always evolving too. It's not
Right.
a hard metric, you know.
Well,
Now,
actually,
Liberty,
well, hold on.
Liberty, I can say that you would also be one of those who they can't make fun of you if this thing were to get you.
No.
Now, obviously, your opera lung. It was your opera lungs that saved you. It were my cigar lungs that saved me, right? The virus got into me, and they were all like, "God, it smells like cigars in here. Let's get out of here right away."
Right. Maybe it's all those padrones that saved me. I don't
can't
know.
take it anymore. It smells like cigars in here, and they left.
To this day, I'm still on severe cough medicine. I mean, I just started it because I heard I heard my experience was, don't suppress your cough, then suppress your cough, and don't do this and don't do that. So I finally made a decision to just take the cough medicine at this point. And but I heard that the cough is the last thing to
You're
go.
allowed to follow doctor's orders, right? That's still allowed.
Only if it's in line with the WHO and the local health.
But the
authorities.
urgent care doctor
And
said
by the
something
way,
very different from the primary, so it was very confusing.
Oh,
Well,
really? What
another
was the
thing
difference?
is that from what you told me, you said that your urgent care doctor. I don't know if I could even say this, but
say it anyway. This episode is boned.
we're doomed anyhow,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, right, right.
What you were telling me, from what you were telling me, your urgent care doctor said something that was contradictory to a lot of things that you hear. Let's just say that, right? We could say that. A lot of things that you hear. I'm
Are
not
we
saying
allowed
from
to
where.
say that?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think so.
I don't think we are.
She was
Say that
saying-
again,
she
Mike, I'm
said
sorry.
The urgent care doctor was giving me like whisper information. It was like, this is what I'm supposed to say, but this is what I'm going to tell you.
She was like
Okay.
winking at you.
Yeah, she was like winking and kind of like, listen, this is what I did.
Well,
Wink,
that-
wink. I'm not supposed to
Wink.
tell you this.
Mm.
I was like, okay, didn't hear
I'm
it
not
from you.
telling you to do this or anything.
But get yourself
Maybe-
some leeches and
Yeah, right. Maybe she's
Listen,
on YouTube too. Maybe
I-
that's the
Right.
problem.
And some people hold back. I don't care. I called up ERs and I said I just wanted plan Bs because I wasn't sure where this was going, and I just listened. Are you giving out those medicines that you see on the news?
Yeah,
I mean,
right, sure.
I was just straight up asking them. They don't want to give you any information.
Yeah, how do I get the Trump treatment?
Yeah,
around
that's what I
here?
wanted.
Yeah, right, right.
I wanted what
Did-
Trump had.
Didn't several people came out when he was still president. Like, didn't Boris Yeltsin take something, or a
Yeah, I
bunch of
think
people, right?
does
Yeah.
it maybe? I don't
No.
know.
Is that what it was? Yeah. Okay.
I think maybe the monoclonal antibodies. I'd like to know if President Trump got those, but I think he had like some kind of mixture, but I don't know for sure, so I'm not gonna put it out there. But whatever they do, there's certain treatments out there that people say they give them, and I was almost willing to participate in trials because I had enough of it. I mean, I did how many opera breathing techniques and nothing was working. So, but
Yeah.
you gotta just fight. Basically, what I wanted to give information from having it to people out there, from my experiences, you gotta fight. You got to fight hard.
Mhm.
You can't.
Mhm.
You're going to want to lay down and sleep. This is what, and strangely enough, I got this from an Andrew Cuomo video from my friend, and I would have never listened to it, but I sent it to my mom, and she had it, and you want to lay down because you have a fever and you have extreme fatigue that Mike explained, but you have
Right.
to get up, you have to sit upright, you have to do
Mhm.
lung exercises, maybe lay in prone position, kind of get your lungs, keep them pumping. I mean, I'm not a doctor, but this is what I did. And from my experience and from videos I saw, and I watched YouTube videos on lung exercises and laid in prone position sometimes, and still am doing that to this day, and drink so much water and things like that. So it feels very inflammatory. It feels like your whole body is in flames and
Yeah.
burning.
It probably is.
It just
yeah.
does weird things, and it does feel like, I call it the tripwire virus, because it just feels like it sets off these random things in your body like that don't connect. The flu is kind of like budding, it hits you, you get the fever, you're just on, in bed, but this is like kind of, you can get up and then it can knock
Right.
you down, and then you have another symptom, then you lose your smell, your taste, and then your lungs, and then it's all over the place. It's very strange for my
Well, and it seems to hit people in different ways, dramatically.
Yeah, very
I mean, think about it. We had it roughly the same time period, right around the same time. We live in the same general geographic region. It's not like we live on opposite sides of the world, so you could potentially have a different strain or something like that. So, and it affected us differently. And I've heard stories from other people in our same geographic region have it around a similar time and have different symptoms. So it does seem to impact different people in different ways.
Are we allowed to say
I'm
that?
just saying.
Absolutely.
Well, I
I would
think that,
describe
well, they've
it-
admitted that there are people who are asymptomatic, right? There are people
Yeah,
who
there's
it
people who
doesn't
don't even
affect
get a cough.
for all intents
don't
and
even know they
purposes
have it.
at all, and that's not why they're proposing these measures. I'm
Yeah.
saying the legitimate argument, or at least the legitimate
Well-
contention or concern, is that if this impacts different people different ways, we don't want to say, oh well, this guy's going to be okay, so screw the other guy. They want to take some kind of measures
Right.
to protect them.
Yeah, it's for the
Whether
people
you
who are
agree
going to
with
get it. Whereas,
everybody's
like,
measures, that's a different story. Whether
Yeah.
you agree with how they're going about it, or even what they're proposing, or why they're proposing it, that's an entirely different matter. But I think that everybody's on the same page as far as that goes, that it's impacting different people different ways for whatever
Yep.
reason.
100%.
I mean, Philly Chris, you've seen me work through.
Yes,
and
I have.
I feel
Mhm.
weird saying this, but I have worked sick my entire life.
Yeah,
I never took time off for anything. I mean,
I've told stories before about. I remember the one time at the seminar when literally you just got up and you, I think you had the one monster drink or whatever drink you have, and you got up there, sick as hell. You were sneezing and coughing, but you still did your thing. You did your your lines, as you say. You didn't
I
forget your
did
lines.
like
Yeah.
Monster and
Right,
Monster
right.
and or was it Rockstar and Dayquil? And I went
That
up there.
might
I
have been it.
remember
Yeah,
because
yeah.
that one had
Rockstar
a
and
podium with a microphone. It was at this big convention. Remember that? You had to drive me there. 'cause
Yeah, I remember.
was,
Yeah,
like,
that's the one
sleeping
I'm
in the
thinking
back.
of. Yeah, yeah. And sometimes
Get
I worry
up
about
there.
you because you're so good at powering through that I'm worried. Sometimes I'm like, you got to put yourself in
I
a
was like-
situation. right?
leaning. People couldn't see it, but I was like leaning on the podium.
Right, right.
I was joking that you were gonna like put your hand behind my back
Right,
behind the
right.
podium. I was like, leaning up on there and power through. Put a smile on and just
yeah.
get through it for those 2 hours, and then just go in the back and die. I was
No,
much
I've
sicker.
I've
Like,
I've
as far
worked
as
with.
illness symptoms, those were much worse than. I mean, I probably had 102 fever when I was there. Serious fever.
No,
doing
I
that.
was concerned. I've seen you a couple times like that, and in your line of work, obviously, you got so much going on, and I know how busy you are in the schedule you keep, and I've worked with a lot of really, great people who have amazing work ethics, but I've never
think
seen
I actually
anybody
did miss
compete
a
with
Mike
yours.
G in
yeah.
the morning because of illness. Now that I'm thinking about it, I had the flu right when we started the program. I think it was in January, right after we started the program, and
Yes.
that was so bad that I still remember. I'm home alone, and
Which
I
year?
couldn't get out of bed. Like,
Right.
physically couldn't get out. My dog was still alive. Everybody
Mhm.
knows she was my baby
Yeah,
and
Ellie,
the love of my life, and I had to feed my dog. And I remember having to crawl out of bed and drag myself,
Right,
crawling
right.
and holding myself up just to get up to feed her, the once or twice a day or whatever it was at the time.
Right.
And my mother ended up driving in from like an hour and a half away on one of the days because I couldn't even do that on one of the days. That's how I was never that bad
Yeah.
throughout this. I was never
Mhm.
that bad that I physically could not get out of bed for an entire 24
good.
hours.
No, that's good.
But I'm not saying that it certainly seems to affect different people different ways. Listen, it's 9:15. I want to give a shout out to Eric K, who's hanging out with us, faithful listener,
Eric K.
participating.
All right.
I see a comment, mustard magic, he says. Mustard magic!
I like
We
the ring to
gotta
that.
T-shirt. We got to get T-shirts. that say
Mustard
mustard
Yeah.
magic.
Hey, can we get
What do you think about
a T-shirt with it would be a blue T-shirt with the YouTube drinking the mustard? Can we get that made up into a T-shirt?
What?
Why not?
That would be
Why
great.
not?
Also, I have a clip to share. Liberty was talking about how the doctor was giving her information. This is what I have to say, but this is what I really think. It reminded me of this scene from the movie The Incredibles. Have you guys seen that movie?
Oh yeah, it's a good.
Yeah.
Movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
The animated. movie
yeah,
you're
so
talking
you
about?
probably know
Yeah.
what scene I'm talking about.
Fortunately, I have not seen it, but let's
Okay.
take
They're
a
pretty
look.
good
This,
movies.
this is
actually,
toward
yeah.
the beginning, so it's not like spoilers or anything. All right, let's watch
Okay.
the clip. I'll make sure the volume's up this time.
Oh, you have the clip? All right, look at this.
Denied? You're denying my claim? I don't understand. I have full coverage.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Hoganson, but our liability is spelled out in paragraph 17. It states
I
clearly.
can't pay for this.
Excuse me. Claims, Bob Parr.
I'm calling to celebrate a momentous occasion. We are now officially moved in.
Yeah, well, that's great, honey. And the last 3 years don't count because...
Because I finally unpacked the last box. Now it's official. Ha ha ha. Why do we have so much junk?
Look at the corded phone.
Say no more. Go save the world one policy at a time, honey. Oh, I gotta go pick up the kids from school. See you tonight.
Bye, honey. Excuse me. Where were we?
I'm on a fixed income. And if you can't help me, I don't know what I'll do.
Oh, poor old lady.
All right, listen closely. I'd like to help you, but I can't. I'd like to tell you to take a copy of your policy to Norma Wilcox on Norma Wilcox, Wilcox, on the 3rd floor, but I can't. I also do not advise you to fill out and file a WS-2475 form with our legal department on the 2nd floor. I would not expect someone to get back to you quickly to resolve the matter. I'd like to help, but there's nothing I can do.
Here we go.
I'm sorry, ma'am. I know you're upset. Pretend to be upset.
All right, that's the end of the clip that I wanted to show.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You're denied. Get the heck out of here.
I'm sorry, ma'am. I know you're upset. But yeah,
and you know people in your life who would be like, who on the 2nd floor do you say I should see? Just shut up, man.
Right. I was just downstairs and the guy told me to come talk to you.
Yeah. You know,
I feel like
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
also
yeah.
us when we're trying to avoid the
We
overlords.
wasted this whole episode talking about the virus again.
Well,
Great.
I mean, I could tell you this much: every time you
Yeah.
put it on the news, it's all
That's all you see
covered.
anyway.
Well,
What
there's some
about-
interesting.
What about the border issues that we're seeing right now? What about
We have a border?
Palestine and
middle-
Israel.
right? What
I
about
think
the
they
border
started
issues? What about
building the wall again.
Serious stuff. Was that?
They started building part of the wall again. I understand.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
You
yeah,
can't
yeah,
say that.
yeah.
It's
For real?
racist.
They finally thought.
You
Yeah,
can't
for real.
say
yeah.
that.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Fighting the wall.
Right.
He's gonna take credit for it too.
Hasn't been
Yeah.
a lot of talk of it, but yeah, they started up some sections again. Yeah, I mean they kind of have to. Yeah.
And Biden's
gosh,
gonna
I
be
have-
like,
Well,
I gave you a
everybody was
vaccine.
for
I built
this
a
for all
wall.
these years, right?
Right.
We played the clips on the program of Bill Clinton talking about it and
Yeah.
Obama talking about it. And
I mean they were
talking
before
about
it, before they were against it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Hmm.
As soon as Trump said it, it's like, it's just racist.
yep.
Right. Yeah.
Walls are
Crazy.
racist.
We should be
Mhm.
building
They're
bridges and
racist.
not walls.
Can't have an intelligent conversation with some people.
If
so
you
we
don't
got
put
that
walls on
going
bridges,
on.
people
You're
fall
seeing,
off.
I mean, you've seen the dangerous things taking place, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See that,
Everything's
that
dangerous.
footage of the people coming through the river? I mean,
Yeah.
that's
The
those
coyote
kids getting
person.
away. Video of
And the
kid getting
children,
thrown
what they're
off-
doing with the
thrown
children.
off of the wall. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kid
it
falling
did,
off
yeah.
the wall. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
Not good. Not good. What about what's going on in Israel right now? That's some serious stuff too, right?
Yeah. It's interesting how there was more peace over there when Trump was in office, and now all of a sudden
With the
we're-
World War III guy. The World War III guy.
Right.
Right.
Mhm. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, and of course they were making fun of Jared Kushner, and it's like, well, what are you supposed to do? Never try? I mean, ever? You're never supposed to try for peace,
Mhm.
you know?
Right.
I mean,
As long
that's
as
what I
you're
liked
talking,
about Trump was at least he tried. At least he tried to talk to Kim Jong Un, because if you never try, you never try. I mean, at
Yeah,
least
I mean,
these
he
people are
stepped-
suffering under
stepped
him.
in-
Those people are so full of baloney. They go out there when Obama reached out to Castro. He's sitting down. This is a monumental moment, and this is a
Mhm.
moment in history where Obama's watching a baseball game with Castro, and then Trump sits
Right,
down with
right.
Kim Jong. How dare you? That's
Right.
not how you deal
Mhm.
with a dictator.
Yeah.
Full of baloney, these people.
Yeah.
You know what they
so-
could all do?
have
Eat
a
a
bowl of
bowl of
mustard?
Eat a bag of socks.
They can eat them, all of us, Darren. That's all we've got for today. Give us your final words. Everybody's got 30 seconds, and then I've had it with you, folks.
Well, who's going to go first? Not everybody all at once.
Billy Chris is down to 25.
What was that? I didn't hear you.
He was trying to do ladies
20
first.
seconds.
I take offense to that. Nope, no ladies first.
No, hey, thanks for listening. We'll looking forward to being back on next week. We'll go over some additional things here. Thanks everybody.
Liberty, didn't you send me a video at one point where these guys said they were for true equality and that women should start
that
working
was
in.
Billy Chris.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Oh, it was Chris that said it.
I saw something
it was
like
Chris.
that before.
Yeah, I said that. Yeah,
You know, we got that
right.
text message thread, so I get confused who sends me what sometimes.
It was on Instagram.
Right.
What was it? We need more women, female stonemasons.
Right. Yeah. Oil rig monkeys, whatever they're called. Or,
They used to be working down in the coal mines like everybody else.
right.
That's the first thing I said
Yeah.
at my women's studies course. I said, all right, so everybody wants for women equality. So who's willing to go on the front line when there's a war? Everybody raise your hand. Not one female raised their hand.
Well, in fairness, a lot of guys wouldn't do that either, right? But it's like somebody comes in the middle of the night, or the guys, what do they do? Well, honey, I went last time to go check to see what.
Well, that was
is,
my
so.
second one. That was actually my second thing. I said if there's an intruder in the middle of the night, who are you sending? But no, I think the front line thing stands true.
Listen, I got it last time. Not my fault. It was only the cat. You can't. Those are the breaks.
Right. Those are the breaks.
Total equal.
Is it my turn?
That's what you got.
Okay. I got a thing here. Okay, I came prepared with graphics. Okay, well, turn your attention to the screen.
All right, what do you got?
Okay, so there's what is this? So, the screen's kind of small for me.
15.
Leave him alone. Let him do it.
Mike, this is as much my show as it is your show. I'm the producer. I'm just.
All the
You know what?
time we've got for today, folks. Stick around. We the people, the Constitution matters.
You didn't take it 30 seconds, Mike.
Yeah.
Give him
All right,
45 seconds for his hard work.
So apparently there's this scam going around that I guess the scammers are trying to get people to pay for COVID vaccines, and as far as I know, COVID vaccines are free, at least in the North Pole they are. Am I allowed to say that? Are there local health authorities in the North Pole at all?
Reindeer are coming for you.
But yeah, so I wait, that doesn't go to the next one. Oh, why can't I do that? Okay, well, my slideshow is broken because Windows is a giant dumpster fire. I'm sorry. Basically, don't fall for the scams. If somebody calls you up and says, "Oh, we want you to pay for this vaccine," don't do it. Don't do it. Call, look up the number, and see if it matches the number on your caller ID. And if it does, they didn't call you unless you called them first.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hello? I'm getting a call.
Shut up, Chris. You're fired.
Oh, yeah, vaccine for... Oh, hey, let me get my credit card. Hold on.
Wait, is that a corded phone?
Yeah. No, there's a lot of scams, though, going on right now.
Yeah,
apparently, they're scamming the oil supply, you know?
Right. Well,
I got to find my can. I got to update my can.
Listen, if anybody just calls you out of the blue that you're not expecting.
There's a horrible story in Pennsylvania years ago about this doctor. I think he was an ear, nose, and throat doctor who was going door to door offering women free breast exams.
Oh, wow. Wow, that's that's pretty.
He got caught doing
How
that.
successful was he?
Yeah. Apparently somebody fell for it, but it's like, come on, people. Like, who has this creepy old guy show up at your door and tell you he's offering free breast? And you say, oh, it seems legit. Let's go.
I don't even think delivery works.
legit.
Must be my lucky day.
Yeah. Where's your car? You're a doctor. You don't have a car.
But yeah, if somebody
in the
calls up unsolicited, and especially if they're asking you to pay in like Google Play or iTunes or Best Buy gift cards, hang up the phone. I get these fake calls from the car the car. What is it? The warranty? No, not
warranty.
insurance.
Yeah, I got one of those.
The
today,
warranty ones. Okay.
We have somebody in the comments right now.
Oh, no.
926. Are you live?
Wait, why is that funny?
I feel
Why
like
is the
that's a
joke?
meme. Didn't somebody do that last time?
It's actually
Is
tomorrow.
This thing
though.
on?
Do it live.
Is this thing on? It's only been 2.5 hours.
All right, we'll do it live.
Where
What
are
does
you
that
seeing
mean?
that? Is
What
that
does that
on the
mean
Twitch?
to play us out?
Why
What
is
does that
that?
mean to play us out?
Well,
All right, we'll do it live.
anyway, so I get these calls. I just tell them I don't have a car. I get a
I
call
usually
from the...
tell them I have a Lamborghini,
Oh,
and they're
okay.
like, they just hang up.
Oh.
Yeah, just make something up when somebody calls like that.
Yeah,
the
sure.
computer ones, I love
Rickroll
this.
them.
Oh, I'm from Microsoft and you have a blah 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 blah. I don't have a computer. I do everything on my phone. I don't have a computer. And they say, "Oh, well, your network is virused or something." And I'm like, "I don't have a network either. I don't believe in technology.
Right.
I don't believe in cell phones."
I don't have a phone. But
Mhm.
There you go.
hey, you
just
can't
go
click
against
anymore, though,
reality.
right?
That's right.
Isn't
There's
that
no
kind
click.
of annoying that you
Yeah.
can't click anymore? You can't like slam the thing. You gotta.
Right. Yeah.
Ah.
We should bring that back, like the
Yeah.
old school
Yeah.
phone, but it's a cell
Oh,
phone.
you know what? There should be an app that you install that like gives that sound
Makes
effect
a
when
noise.
you hang up.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
I
Like-
think you're gonna be rich, Russell.
Mm.
Phone
already
slamming
rich.
into the receiver while hanging up app.
Right. There you go.
Well, the idea, and somebody can make this happen. I don't care about getting rich. Okay, so you hit the end button, but it before
Love how
ending.
Russ's 30 seconds turns into an hour.
Shut up, Mike. But you hit this special end button when you want to slam the phone on somebody, and it sends the noise, and then it hangs up.
Back when,
That's
when
how
I
I
was a
would do
kid,
it.
they
That's how.
my grandmother, and I saw this with other people, they
They
would
threw
hang a
rocks
whistle
at each
through
other?
their phone. So if they got like a prank phone call or something, they would
Oh
whistle. They would
my
do the
God.
whistle in the phone. Yeah.
That's funny.
Mhm.
A dog whistle.
Yeah. Yeah. Like a big
Fraud,
whistle.
voter fraud, voter fraud. I think that's all for the night. What do you think?
That's it.
I don't know. Should we
That's
should we
all
break
we
a few
got.
more YouTube rules?
I think we're good. We got to figure out. We got to talk technical stuff, and because we got thousands of people out there who have the postcard. Do you know what I'm talking
Yes.
about?
What?
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see this right now.
Yeah. We have to
Nope,
update it,
it's
right?
being filtered.
Can you see it?
Nope.
I see you and
Something
I can
Fox
see it
News.
by-
Carlisle
You
Gunworks.
can't see this right now. See?
Yeah. If you
I don't like this program. It allows me not to do it.
if you can stand up and hold it in front of yourself, it'll work. I think, Mike. You stand up and hold it down in front of yourself.
Or just turn off your
Yeah.
background.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, we'll post it up there. But the problem is that QR code that we've got,
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
that's
It,
for the old link.
it's to the YouTube self-updating playlist, which we've had problems keeping that up, obviously. So
Right. Right.
we'll have to figure out what to do there. Maybe we just make a video at the self-updating playlist, the sole video, where we say, "Hey guys, we got kicked off, and we don't know, when we're going
Right
to be
on.
kicked off, so we can't keep our episodes here. So head on over to MikeGinthemorning.com, and you can click on this to get our full episodes. Maybe
Oh,
we do that.
Mike.
Yep.
Oh,
That's a good
Mike.
idea. Yeah.
You don't know the rules, do you? That's
What?
against YouTube's guidelines. To
Is
direct
it?
people,
Oh, is it really?
yes, to direct people off of the platform. Just making a video dedicated to directing people off of the platform. It's like spam or something. I see Chris walked away.
I need to get some water. I'm so parched from listening to Russ.
I watched you. You made me
I was about to
thirsty.
die.
You made my brain dehydrated with all your education.
Funny, Chris.
So are we directing them off the platform, though, if we tell them that
Uh.
we're not there anymore?
I don't know. You remember that scene from Shrek 2 where Pinocchio, or no, was it Shrek 2? It might have been like the third or fourth one. There was a scene in Shrek where somebody was looking.
What have I done?
A bad guy was looking for Shrek, and they asked Pinocchio. They said, "You can't lie." And he goes in this roundabout way of saying, "I can't confirm whether I do or do not know where he is."
Right.
You know, we might have to pull one of those.
Remember that.
I've watched all.
We might have to pull one of those.
I like Shrek. Yeah.
We may or may not be on Rumble, but it's up to you to go there and check, perhaps.
Yeah, he's friends with Elon Musk, I heard.
Pinocchio.
Well, that's a good way to put it.
Speaking of Shrek, I remember one time a while ago, I mentioned something about watching wrestling, like the WWF, and Liberty was like, "You still watch wrestling?" And I was like, "Excuse me, didn't you tell me the other day that you spent the entire weekend watching Shrek 1, 2, 3, and 4?
Whoops. Not mention SpongeBob.
Well, that's real. Shrek is real.
Oh.
It looks real.
And wrestling.
It has high definition.
That's funny. All right, that's it. All right, give me 3 seconds of silence so I can do this. That's all the time we've got for today. Stick around for We the People, The Constitution Matters, Pastor David Whitney, Professor Phil Duffy. This one's for you, Grandma. We miss you, Ellie. Daddy loves you.